Okay. So we're streaming now. Oh, the music may be a bit loud. Let's just turn that way down. Okay, if you could just, talk a bit. I'm going
Yeah, yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. So I guess this is only to the people who are existing in the lapse of time between when the stream actually starts and you getting into it. So I guess hello to those people for a moment. Welcome to Write Once, Read Many, another episode. This is gonna be my second time on it, but I'm probably gonna say all this stuff again in a minute. All right, and now we have a link, so I'm gonna open that bad boy up. So yeah, everyone just buckle in for a minute because it's gonna get buggy in here.
All right,
Uh,
so I've got this. I think people are going to come into the stream now. I got the link up.
Great. Yes, I see him coming on in. Hello, people.
Got some classics. We got Megafire and 2 plus 4 times 5. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
Victoria and Greg
Mm-hmm.
are here. Or Vic. Yes.
All
So
right.
David is here for these
Yeah.
chapters, and
Yes. Hello.
you've seen slash heard him before, and now
I've been around the block a
now
few
he's here.
times. I am. And if you don't know, in the Discord, I'm
Oop.
Lord Pompington. So if you want to chat, I am there.
Yes. Hey, Em is in. Um, all right. And so, as a reminder to people for the audience participation, uh, for people who haven't read the rest of the book, the audience participation is What is the Secret from 3.12. And if you have read the book and you already know the secret, then the question is, which of the three doggos is best? Um,
Hmm.
and so, yes. We have decided to slightly change the format in the order that we talk about stuff. And we'll talk about that in a second. I want to take a second to admire the way that Victoria is using her own previous Amy's as a reference to draw a differently angled Amy. It's pretty excellent.
Yeah. Beautiful artwork once again.
I gotta let the dog into the room. She's too
She's gonna
sad.
flip out. She's too sad. She wants to be part of the stream.
Okay, there we go. Okay, well, yes, and there's a little bit more time on the art, but I think we can kind of jump into this format change. So we're going to talk about sort of notable stuff in the chapter first, and then some of the themes, and then we'll jump into the review, and then we can sort of touch on the stuff that we talked about in the early sections as we get through the actual meat of the chapters.
Yeah, we're trying to give you like a thesis statement approach here, so we can introduce you to the general concepts, and then we'll get real into it as we go through the chapter.
Yeah. So to sort of start us off, uh, yes, definitely what a knife looks like. Oh, oh, Greg. Um,
Oh,
too focused on the knife, not focused enough on Amy. Um, so
uh,
to
yeah,
start
let's
off,
dive into notable stuff.
yeah. Um,
All right. You wanna take a swing at this first one?
sure, yeah. I wasn't sure. Said, this is the first sort of face-to-face confrontation that uh, Taylor has had with enemy capes, where she's actually like talking to them. She didn't talk to Lung. I wouldn't say that she really had an adversarial like first encounter with the Undersiders, and then like she and Armsmaster are essentially on the same side in that conversation. So this is her first like cape to cape. Uh, how would you put
Yeah.
it, David? Like
Yeah, I mean,
convo.
conversation and like even beyond that, I guess she has been in fights before, and I guess there was a scuffle with Rachel, which I suppose I'd count as a fight, but more so like this is her first time like dealing blows with the enemy. Um, and you get a lot of this the classic like hero villain banter. It's her first sort of foray into like I guess I guess you could call it the political side, or we'll get into this a little bit more, but like the theatrics of it all.
Yeah. I think so. 2 + 4 × 5 just said maybe verbal confrontation or something. Like
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's a good way to say it. Like, they're like actually socially fighting each other. Um,
right, yeah,
so
yeah,
and
yeah,
then so Taylor has like we get to see in these couple chapters Taylor's like expectations versus reality in a lot of ways. But especially of heroes and stuff, and of the way
right.
her teammates will act.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Megafire says she should have been around for more of the fight until now if she wanted screen time in the art. Yeah.
Yeah, for real though.
Everyone look away. I'll fix it when I post it in the Discord.
No,
Um,
it's wonderful as is.
oh yeah, I was
Um,
gonna switch to the higher quality version. There we go. Not
yeah,
sure if
yeah, I
that'll
love
even
seeing
come
the
through, but
drawovers.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool. Oh, I gotta place the little marker for myself for when we're gonna switch arts. Just a
Oh
sec.
yeah, do it.
So you
While
you
you're
talk
doing
about a
that, I'll
thing.
dive into this next one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So kind of more in the vein of that this first face to face sort of verbal confrontation, good way to put it. Um, Taylor sort of demonstrates that she is notably good at being on a team, as opposed to lots of other parahumans who are very much aggressive or butt heads or selfish is a big one. But Taylor, despite her loner nature, is very good at operating in this fashion. Um, yeah, we'll kind of get through it a little bit more in the chapter, but especially with Tattletale, I mean, I think they're an excellent duo. Um, I'll dive into the next one even. She gets like her first full on real threatening attack thrown at her, like something that is intended to do lasting damage. And yeah, it's interesting because it comes at the hands of an improvised weapon, but it's pretty brutal. And she takes a real hit. And yeah, as Vic says, Taylor was a big bully today, and I'm gonna wholeheartedly agree on that. We'll talk a lot about that.
Definitely.
Um, yeah. This next one, yeah, I think I kind of want to skip this next one just because we dive into it more. But
Mhm.
there's lots of sort of like turning the tides in this. There's lots of back and forth. You get a nice like tete-a-tete here in this confrontation, and lots of hollow threats being tossed around.
Mhm. Mhm. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um. So I mentioned that already. This is Taylor's first outing with like the Undersiders. The first time she's on a team fighting. So it's her first time with the gang. Um. They get called a gang sometimes, but I don't actually think they operate like a gang. They're more like just
No, no. I
they're
think they're a gang in the fun, cheeky way, like a bunch of little rascals, not like a mafia or something like that.
yeah. I mean they slot very nicely into like the like parahuman team like Cape team dynamics,
Hmm.
but like in terms of like the way gangs operate in real life, just like totally different. They're a crew, yeah. They're a crew
Yeah,
who
yeah,
pulls
that's a great way to
jobs.
put it.
Good point.
Literally, in this case, pulling a heist. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very much a crew.
Well, a robbery.
The way the Scooby Doo kids are a gang. Yeah, absolutely. And it's very that's the way I was envisioning it for sure. Just a bunch of kooky characters.
Let's see here. So we get to see the team dynamics. There's, the sort of problems with Rachel, but once her and Taylor are separated, it just like everyone works together really well. There's not really any other problems. They all kind of they can do their own thing, so that's what keeps things copacetic, I think, that they don't actually have to coordinate that much most of the time.
Yeah, you know what I'm just realizing as we're talking about that, but it's kind of like this is a team full of loners, which is interesting. So they're all very used to like operating on their own and kind of taking care of their own business. So they work well in being separated to achieve their own ends in those situations.
Yeah, and the only two who weren't masters were not on teams before this team, and so it's like weird how well they do as a unit, given that like the two who don't have like the loner personality type of the powers also, for their own way are different loners. So, ugh.
Yeah, yeah, more due to their personalities, less than their power in those instances. But yeah, they're all lonely boys.
Brian
Uh,
seems like the only non-loner trying to pull these idiots together. Yeah, I think he's going in that way, like in this part of his life. But the fact that he
mhm.
was a solo villain for several years, I mean, like he has a good enough power that I think he could have gotten onto some kind of team. I guess there aren't that many
Oh,
good
absolutely.
villain
Not a
teams
lot of like
in
villain
Brockton
teams.
Bay. Like Fault
Yeah,
Line's
it kind
crew
of
would be
devolves into
totally
gangs.
worth joining. Like imagine joining Fault Line's crew. That'd be dope.
Oh hell yeah. And one thing with Brian specifically, I mean, we learn a lot more later in the book, but like his background really even beyond his cape stuff, very much led to him sort of being like a loner type and self-sufficient in that way.
Arm Man is also a loner type, as Vic points out. Um, what a what a loser. Um,
Ooh.
sorry, I like to make fun of Arms Master sometimes.
Our man.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. Um, all the Undersiders. Another thing that I like noting is that they like each one of them has their own way to navigate Gru's darkness, whereas like
Hmm.
almost none of their enemies do. Like it'll come up later when they fight people, and it's like, oh, we can't exactly rely on just the darkness because they have like similar like workarounds to us.
Yeah,
But like,
different sensing powers and stuff like that.
yeah, Tattletale, just uses her power, which kind of overrides Gru's darkness. I don't know that it muzzes with it enough because she uses like essentially so many different senses that like it doesn't affect.
Yeah,
So
she's more or less using like context clues to piece together what she needs to know in that in those instances, not really like counteracting the darkness itself in any way.
right. So but she can still like move around in there, and then the bugs, obviously the dogs have smell, and then Regent can sense people's bodies. So
Hmm. Like a creep can.
yeah, I mean he is a fun guy.
He's a super fun one.
Um.
Um, yeah,
So
this next
yeah,
one.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
go
you
for it.
should. Well, I was
Oh,
gonna
no,
say.
sure.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna go for it. Yeah, and then I mean, like, just kind of in with that, each member of this team, like, beyond being a loner, beyond having ways to navigate through Gru's darkness, each one is a vital player. No one of them, despite however powerful each one individually might be, can really be overlooked in this unit, and it's super dope that Taylor kind of slides right into the architecture they had already built, and also becomes like another pillar of support and whatever amongst this team.
Yeah, I think that like we talked about this while we were thinking about the chapters. If any one of them was gone, you'd have to take off like at least three people from the other side to sort of even the scales.
Yeah, without them being overwhelmed, that's the only way they would navigate. Also, just to address Megafire,
Yeah.
Regent might stumble in the darkness, but nobody else would see it, so it's fine. Yeah, pretty much that.
I think you should talk about this a
Yeah, I
little
can
bit.
take this one for sure. So this next notable thing is simply entitled "Fuck It," in quotes, and basically that's just to shine a light on sort of Taylor's attitude back in 3.5, kind of approaching this whole heist. And she has the line of like "fuck it." we're just going to go for it, basically. And she's full of bravado and sort of this uncharacteristic recklessness heading into this situation, versus now where she's kind of like reeling in pain. She's really in the shit, and sort of understanding what fuck it leads to a little bit, which can be overwhelming at moments.
It
And
turns out that in this story, you fuck around and you find out.
you very much find out, and honestly, pretty quickly, all things considered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Megafy. Um, Regent can make other people stumble, so they're too distracted to see him being a doofus. Brian never lets him live it down.
Oh no,
But
Brian would never do that.
yeah, both good responses
Um,
from those two.
yes.
Let's see
Cool.
here.
And
Oh, go on.
yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like there are other sort of notable things that are less like Taylor focused, but I
Hmm.
think we could probably get more into that during our breakdown. But I mean, I guess just to put it in broad terms, like we learn a ton more about the heroes in this instance, and obviously it's more focused on two particular individuals, but we learn a lot about sort of like how their structure impacts their actions, and like sort of the rules and regulations they're a little bit beholden to.
And we've
Yeah,
mentioned
it's a
up
lot.
to now they've been fighting the wards, but these two
Hmm.
aren't wards. These two are new wave. Like they literally
Right.
don't follow the same rules.
Yeah, they're part of their own hero team, which is very, I guess, incestuous. Not to use a weird word about it, but it's a familial organization, pretty much. And they kind of do their own thing. They've got their own standards, and obviously they have to keep themselves out of legal hot water. But they, they can push some boundaries. The wards specifically cannot.
Well, and we know that like literally Victoria's mom, Brandish, or Carol Dallin, is a lawyer and like is part of the reason
Hmm.
they can like operate because they can get enough legal stuff done for free or on the cheap by like
Right.
the full law firm that she actually works for, and
Hmm.
like they have like really good public standing and stuff, but it's this precarious situation for them really because they don't
Yeah.
actually like make a lot of money even though they get like invited to stuff and whatever, so they're not actually rich. um
Right. Right.
Even though
And
they sort
and
of play up that side of things.
absolutely, yeah, and that'll be a big talking point a little bit later on for sure.
Yeah,
Um, Want to hop into some themes?
yeah.
Oh, and I
So
guess before we do that,
mhm.
we could address Vic in the chat. Yeah, Victoria does a lot of property damage here. Yeah,
Oh
we'll
yeah.
definitely touch on that. It's kind of wild how sort of with how much reckless abandon she has coming into this bank, and especially because it's like a bank, it's a financial institution. You'd think she'd be like, oh, I should probably not destroy this, but
Well,
you know.
just to put it in perspective, she's a lawyer, but uh she's like the only person who has a like job outside of the Cape team for two families of four. So it's like eight people supported off of like the Cape income and Carol's income alone. So,
Hmm.
um,
Uh,
and I mean like,
Not
it's eight people, so it's kind of a lot.
right. Oh yeah, and as I love what Greg said here, not my table, not my problem. Yeah, pretty. That very much feels like the attitude here. Um,
Vic said she's rich in the sense that she can break a marble table in half with no consequences, and it's true. Yeah, she's very privileged in that way. It's just like bizarre the kind of like they have like a aside from anything else, they have like a facade of a life that like they're still
hmm
trying to project because they want their team to like have this certain image, but
the
like
notoriety.
yeah, but they're not actually like doing well. Um,
No.
like the team's kind of on the rocks. So,
Hmm.
but anyway,
Yeah,
regardless of that,
That's later stuff.
um,
Yeah, themes. Kick us off with this first one.
so we get a return to bullying, of course.
Of
Um,
course.
Starting right off, we have Tattletale implements some bullying tactics against Glory Girl and Panacea, aided by her power, and she's very, very good at it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then we thought it was worth mentioning that this chapter just has omnidirectional bullying. They're all making power plays all the time and always trying to hurt each other's feelings.
And no one's being nice about it even a little bit. It hurts for
Yeah,
everybody though, at least.
yeah. And
Uh,
then we get.
mhm.
Do you want to talk about this one?
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, lots of we see, given that Taylor's in a new situation under very different circumstances than she's used to, she is compromising her sort of moral code here a little bit, or at least what she's said her moral code is, and very much betraying her own experience with this type of thing. Obviously, given the context, it's a little bit warranted, I suppose. There's not really much other option, but it's interesting to see her really embracing the villainous persona.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And that leads right into our next theme, which is like this is a nice like first dip into like theatrics of being a cape. They
Hmm.
yeah, they continue we sort of see in action the cops and robbers stuff that Tattletale was talking about. Like even down to the fact that it's okay for the heroes to property destruction. Like I think that is actually a really good example in favor of the cops and robbers game, whereas like a lot of stuff you can
Yes.
kind of poke holes in it, and like there are a lot of flaws in the whole idea, but like that part is just like a kernel of truth, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and like it's all very much, the way Tattletale frames it is very much like all of this is a game. Like at the end of the day, no one's supposed to die. No one, the crimes are being committed, but not at the risk of like major bodily harm to bystanders and things like that. And even from the fights outside in the previous chapters, like we see how that actually takes shape pretty apparently. And here, it's very much like the it's very much like the monologuing. I mean, Tattletale even directly kind of addresses that. The monologuing at one another, sort of the BSing, that like each side is kind of blatantly bluffing back and forth throughout these chapters. And
Well, I like that
yeah,
they're kind of fighting on every level. Like there is
yes.
physical violence, there's social violence, and then there's like information warfare as well. So it's like at least three different levels that they're like trying to attack each other on.
Yeah, and if we could just address the chat here for a sec
Mm-hmm.
from Vic, Taylor is really weird here because she doesn't think through what she's saying. True. Usually she explains exactly what she means and why to herself, but we really get no insight into her banter here. It's basically just flirting with super high stakes. That's a pretty excellent characterization, and I don't disagree at all. Like, especially even in that, what really kind of surprised me, just to go back to like the beginning of the heist, is like that their entrance where I keep getting the picture of like the Boondock Saints or something, where she's like standing on a table and the camera is panning around her as she's like being like, everybody fucking keep it cool or spiders are gonna get you. But
Oh,
obviously it's a,
you mean Pulp Fiction?
oh, I mean that too, but I'm very much thinking of Boondock Saints
Oh,
when the
sorry, I
two
thought you meant the
brothers
robbery
are.
scene with the British lady.
No, I mean that, yeah, very much that also. But in Boondock Saints, I know it's not a heist; it's more just lots of murder. But um, it has very much the same vibe in terms of like commanding the room and all of that stuff. So it's interesting, to Vic's point, that we don't, through all of this, yeah, we're not really getting like her thinking through because everything's moving so quickly. And it's curious that she sort of like, again, fits into this whole role so seamlessly. Like she's like, okay, well, this is what the villains would do.
Well,
And
she's been in the other side of this game a lot at
right,
school.
right. Yeah, yeah, I guess that's true. So again, back to the sort of like betraying her own experience stuff.
Hmm.
She's now having to embody the other side, and luckily, her counterparts from her regular life are particularly vicious and fucky.
I think that's what
So,
gives her some of the like creativity and like the
hmm
evil power. Like she's a smart person, but she's just dealt with so much bullshit that like she can like metaphorically turn into like dealing with this other stuff. Like when she dealt with Arms
Oh
Master,
yeah.
she's like, I've dealt with these fucking little power plays before. Um,
And it is funny how like she takes her sort of young teenage experience and just directly applies it to adults. It's like, no, it's all the same shit. Fuck you. I don't care if you're a big boy arm man in charge.
well, Arms
And
Master
he
really does have like pretty arrested development because of like the fact that I'm pretty sure he triggered as like a around the same age as Taylor, like as a teen,
Yeah, really
and
young. Yeah.
like basically from then on was valued for like parts of his like cape identity and like that
Right.
side of his life, and like
hmm
obviously he matured some, but I don't think that he like had a full like normal maturation, and like even though he's 30, he's kind of like an edgy teen still, like because he's
Very
just kind
much
of a
so.
shitlord and he needs to grow up.
Yeah.
But
And that's pretty common with a lot of the capes. I mean, is a lot of them are sort of lacking
well,
in a lot of.
it's like the BoJack thing where they say that like there most of the people who are famous are frozen in time from when they became famous,
Yeah,
and so like most capes
right,
are frozen in time from whenever they became a cape. Like not all of
right.
them, but they're really a lot of them are really wrapped up in their own thing, and they don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, he's using a skull for his mask for totally legitimate reasons.
Good science reasons for sure.
Yeah. Oh, also, I wanted to loop back to something Megafire had said earlier, which is Victoria's
Mhm.
very angry with her sister being threatened and seems to just stop herself from going too far in hurting Taylor or Tattletale by venting that anger on the table. So much
Mm.
bullying. Yeah, she even bullies the table. Get
Yeah,
out of
and
here, you nerd!
yeah, nerd. I kind of agree with that a little bit, but I think more so later on in the exchange. But I think her entrance is really just a
Rooted in the
demonstration
theatrics,
of
yeah.
power. Yeah, yeah. It's just to be like she knows how to land without destroying the floor or the roof or whatever. Like I'm sure she's very
And she like
capable of that.
practiced that one landing. They talk about it in the chapter. She thinks like I'd practice for weeks to get this landing just right, where I look
Like,
fucking awesome. So like she's just
Uh,
obsessed with this stuff and constantly practicing. So
oh
like she
yeah.
knows what she's doing.
Yeah, and the backhanding like of the table is very much just this could be you. Like, oh, this is nothing. Like it's just might as well be a piece of dust floating in the air.
I think her hurting Tattletale at this in 3.12 is a loss of control, like you're
Agreed.
saying. Um, so in that way, yeah, I really do think that she loses it during the conversation while she's like dealing with the secret idea and dealing with Amy being under threat for so long, and it's just like
hmm
this extended for however like defended she may be, like it's a really nerve-wracking situation, I think,
Oh yeah.
that
Oh
builds and
yeah.
builds over the course of the like couple minutes. um
Yeah. And what's kind of nice about these chapters are a nice example of like, especially given the theatrics of it all, they're constantly teetering that line, which is what makes being a hero or a villain such a risky thing. Is that like you're constantly being pushed to the edge of going too far, and everyone's dancing that line, trying to sort of stay just on the side of theatrics enough to not get totally boned.
yeah,
Yeah,
you don't want to catch too much heat regardless
no,
of which
no.
side you're on, regardless of how powerful you are.
Right, right. And yeah, we see a couple instances in these chapters where they really almost push that line and kind of do push that line.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, and I guess that leads us kind of perfectly into this next one if you want to go for that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like changing power dynamics in these chapters, like a loss of control and real-time shifting of power were two ways we came up with to put it. And to like sort of expand on the loss of control, it's not it's like control of the situation and like
Hmm.
having the actual command over people in the room, um
Right.
because they're fighting, um and also the sort of I don't know how to put it, but Taylor feeling trapped and like she's not going to be able to escape when her power is really
Yeah.
bad before Tattletale's really back in the conversation, like
Right. She feels stuck at that point.
yeah, like that loss of control is also what I'm talking about. So
Hmm.
um
Yeah, yeah. It's power dynamics, but definitely like personal control. Like in terms of, yeah, Taylor not having control over the fight. Glory Girl sort of losing control of her emotions. Panacea losing control of her emotions. Like it gets there's lots of it. It's very interesting,
mhm,
very
mhm.
dynamic.
And then for the real time shifting of power, we had actual like good examples here. The physicality and information like both matter. We kind of talked about this earlier, but
Yeah.
it's just the information happens to win this fight, but like sometimes it wouldn't matter. Like sometimes the enemy would just physically overwhelm you, but like sometimes so in this, world, it's all situational. It never is like
Hmm.
exactly one thing trumps everything else. Um
Right.
and then yeah, let's see
Uh,
here. In the par
I like this one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Keep going.
Oh yeah. So in the parahuman fights, as I've said before, the order of importance is pretty much knowledge, then positioning, then execution of like whatever moment to moment fighting. But in this case, they both sides had bad intel, they both had weird positioning, and it was down to like totally on the fly execution during the fight for as far as what happened.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
It's yeah, and there are moments in this fight where like knowledge really means very little, and then knowledge kind of means everything. And and I guess Tattletale is just the embodiment of that exact idea.
well, it's
The
like
moment. Oh, go ahead.
another thing I just realized is like it has to go hand in hand because if they just had the
Yes.
information, it like just wouldn't matter. It
Mm-hmm.
requires Taylor like taking that extra like that dark turn of like holding the knife to Amy's throat
Right.
to like enforce their position in the room for the information to even be leveraged.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of one of those things where like again to the theatrics, I feel like everyone in the room knows Taylor's no one's getting their throat sliced here. Like that's almost definitely not happening. But they do take the threat seriously up until a point where like again, it's the cops and robbers nature of it all.
Yeah, they
Uh
they take it seriously in that like it could happen if they really like if Glory Girl actually were to like fly over there, but they don't
mhm.
think that it's like a looming like ticking clock to when Crazy Bug crazily cuts her throat. Like we're
Right.
never under that
Until
kind of tone. Um
Until the point when Tattletale literally starts counting down, and that's
right, but
that's
that's
what
for the
sort of
secret, yeah.
right, right, yeah, yeah,
Victoria says, "Yeah, Amy literally just runs away. She could have gotten away if she wanted to."
yeah, yeah. At pretty much any point in time, um, yeah. And I like Sigma's comment here as well.
Well,
Genetic control.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead,
I'm gonna read it real quick. This is
please.
one of my favorite Metal Gear lines of all time. It's the opening monologue from Metal Gear Solid 4.
Oh my
Genetic
god.
control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. Yeah,
I felt that in my bones.
man, that one was a real predictor of the future. Metal Gear. Remember in
Metal
2014 when all
Gear.
those Metal Gear geckos started jumping around and on battlefields?
I remember it so well.
Um, anyway,
um,
so I think we're
yeah.
probably ready to uh
Let's get into
begin
these
the
chapter
chapters. Yeah.
breakdowns.
Do you
Yeah.
want to start us off?
Sure. So in 3.11, we kind of enter in as Taylor is reeling from the blow from Panacea. She says, in quotes, "It hurt as much as anything I'd ever experienced," which does kind of show how this interaction like is a huge escalation from her typical life, obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
because this, like, I mean, I'm assuming she's probably directly comparing to the last couple times she's been hurt, like
yeah.
the flames hitting her, which was not super bad. She just got knocked around, and then the
Hmm.
dogs biting her, which was worse.
Yeah.
And then this is like worse than three dogs pulling her in different directions.
Right. A very heavy metal blunt object cracking you in the head. Like, no
Yeah,
thank you.
I mean, I've taken some blows to the head, but they've always been by like,
Fists
humans, like
or
fists,
something. Like,
elbows,
yeah.
knees, stuff like that. Like even a knee compared to like a metal object. Ooh,
Oof, yeah, and with that
metal.
much momentum too, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and basically Panacea like follows up this motion, kind of raising the fire extinguisher over her head again, basically threatening Taylor enough just to create some distance between the two, because I think Amy fully acknowledges like a hand-to-hand combat isn't necessarily going to go her way until she has some backup. So
Yeah, I mean,
she's
she
yeah.
bails on the attack. She like dodge rolls instead of finishing the smash or whatever. Um,
Yeah, yeah, she's not that committed to the violence. She more just is doing it as a tactical move in the moment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then let's
Yeah, go
see
for it.
here. I was gonna jump in and Taylor had assumed that Panacea was attempting to make a phone call that she didn't make, but she actually successfully sent some texts or some sweet emojis to get the info to Victoria and allow her to know like what to do, like when to come in, etc. And like what the
Mhm.
plan was with the hostages, I think. And that's actually shown in Victoria's art from um 3.8. The 3 point
Mhm.
wait, not 3.8. Maybe it was 3.7. The one with the Black Widow. In
Yeah,
that
yeah, where
art,
she's typing behind her back, right?
yeah, you can see her typing behind her back, like one hand is held there. It's pretty awesome. Um,
Super dope.
and then Victoria. It's bug,
These are small.
knife,
Okay, yep.
and then either
Shocked face.
shocked face or happy face.
Hard to
Uh,
tell.
yeah,
I was concussed by a knee in the third grade. That's pretty rough. You now imagine had that knee had a fire extinguisher attached to it.
exactly.
Would have been would have been sour grapes, I'm sure.
Shocked.
Um,
Okay, so bug, knife, shocked.
Bug knife shocked. It's shocked. Obviously, I'm so sorry, Vic. We should have known.
Yeah. Those were
Yeah,
the
yes.
emojis that she sent to Victoria. That's how Vic knows.
I
Um,
am shocked. On the note of shocked, I am shocked at like, I mean, I guess yeah, Amy was communicating with Glory Girl presumably for a little while during all of this, but it is interesting like how much information she was able to convey to get her in at that exact moment. And the fact that like Glory Girl was chilling on the roof for so long during all of this is also a little bit curious, but I guess that must have been another
I think she
tactical
knows
move,
from
right?
training with her team, like she is there to like strike priority targets off the board, and if she can't
Right.
like she could have been fighting the dogs with Aegis, but he had that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like to her fighting a brute, and I know like Rachel's a master, but the dogs are like the brute element.
Right.
Fighting a brute just isn't worth her time in her mind.
No. No, not at all. And it's funny. Vic says literally, why didn't they take people's phones? Um, well, one, yeah, she follows up with, I guess it would take too much time. I agree with that, and I think also Taylor's thread at the beginning about like having planted a bug on everyone sort of was supposed to be like the don't fucking call anyone, don't text, don't do any of your dumb garbage, but I don't think she had realized what Amy had done to the bugs by that point, and you know what are you gonna do then? You
Yeah,
can't.
and
She probably assumed everything was fine up until the big reveal here.
I was also gonna say in this early part of the story, she doesn't like let the walls down yet to where she always senses where the bugs are around her. Like she'll start to do that kind of soonish. Well, not for this stream. It'll be months down the line.
Yes.
But it will be like she'll just sort of naturally see where the bugs are and map out the area. She like doesn't even do that with the hostages. In one of the previous chapters,
Hmm.
she's like, I was surprised to turn and see there weren't hostages. But it's not like she realized the bugs were feeding her bad information. She just wasn't paying attention to what they were doing, even though they were on hostages.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the things that become like innate actions for her later on are just not present here. Like her presence of mind is less great. Also, me Snapchatting the robbery. I imagine if anyone was going to be Snapchatting the robbery, it probably would have been Regent, who would have just been like taking selfies during half of it. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure he gives no fucks enough to do something like that.
When was this chapter written? This chapter was written. It actually has the date on the page, I think. So let me see if it's.
Oh yeah,
It was
yeah.
written, March 11th of 2011. Or no, maybe the 311 just means March of 2011. But there you go.
Ages ago, more than a decade ago.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, posted September 13th, 2011. Thank you, Greg. I don't know where I was. Oh my! I am so dumb. The chapter is
oh, we're at the same
3.11, but because
robbery.
it says 3-11, my stupid
Ah,
brain didn't like register that it's.
you scampi.
um,
Um,
yeah.
wow, me and Regent are perfect for each other. True, true, true. Um, okay, and then back into it. Kind of on the note of one of our themes is like the changing of power dynamics. Here is an instance of that. Um, in which yeah, Taylor grabs out her baton and swings it right at Panacea, who does block it with the aforementioned fire extinguisher, but in the process drops her phone, which uh, I think, doesn't she drop her phone and the fire extinguisher, of which Taylor kind of
Yeah.
does take the fire extinguisher to crush the phone.
Yeah. I think that's right. Let me see here. Bu- 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 I don't know.
I'm sorry, but phones were definitely like a mainstay back in 2011 for sure. Um,
Um,
I'm
s-
sorry you were too busy being 12 at the time.
in 2011 we were just dealing with like the first wave of smartphones because like David and I both worked in phone IT, well not IT,
Hmm.
fucking phone
Customer
support
service,
basically.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did fix a lot of phones for people, but I was theoretically supposed to be doing customer service.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much that. I was an Appleman back in the day.
And I did
And I
Verizon. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Just two kinds of people in the world, huh?
yeah, those are the only two. Um, Apple and Verizon. Um,
uh,
here,
yeah.
if you go on a little longer in there, I'm gonna like skim the little section and find the section about the phone and see
Yeah. Sure.
when she dropped it.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, Taylor does crush the phone, and Amy's like, "Darn, I liked that phone. Shoot, heck," but clearly doesn't seem all that like really bothered by it. She kind of, and she exudes some confidence here, knowing that knowing what we know now, which is that text got sent. Ain't nothing you can do about it. The way we wrote it here, I think William, you were trying to appease someone in this stream, but Amy is being a goddamn cute little brat while Taylor is straight up raging. When suddenly, dot dot dot, Glory Girl enters the scene with a demonstration
I
of
had to
her.
add just a little flair onto Amy, so that it wasn't just a exclusive insult.
Yeah, I think I initially wrote that as straight up insulting, but yes. So Glory Girl enters in. We get that nice sweet pose. She basically comes in with a demonstration of her raw power after both bursting in and then immediately just with the swipe of a hand destroying that fancy marble table. And Taylor, in quotes, almost wets herself at this. Totally floored. The demonstration of power very much accomplishes what she wanted it to.
Yeah. And it
Um,
also makes sure that someone is like, how to say, for Victoria's power, the emotion power like is driven by how you feel about her. So the fact that she looks like a loose cannon to them means that her fear aura actually works better on them.
oh
So
yeah.
that's kind of
Um,
interesting. Like
yeah, I hadn't even considered that.
she's like basically like subtly rewarded by her power for acting out.
Yeah, interesting.
And I did
Uh,
find it
eh,
up here just real quick. So she
yeah,
dropped the phone so she could hold two hands on the fire extinguisher to block the asp, the baton.
got it. Yeah,
So
and then
yeah,
once the swing happens, she drops the fire extinguisher.
right. That knocked
Because her
it
grip
out of her
wasn't that
hands.
good on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, which gives Taylor the opportunity to then crush it. Um, but yeah, so and during kind of all of this, when Taylor sees Glory Girl enter the scene, does the whole marble table swap. She acknowledges sort of the tragedy of facing two major players in her first two fights. I think she laments for a moment of like, "Fuck, really? First it's got to be Lung, and now goddamn Glory Girl. Like, give me a break. Can't we just fight some kids and get it on with?"
Like especially because she doesn't understand the nuances of Glory Girl's power and
Right.
takes it at face value. She actually falls into the same like pitfall that she was trying to avoid when she was in the lung fight, where she didn't want to
Hmm.
assume someone's power would like that they were being upfront about it. So she assumes that she's invincible, but she's just not. So she comes off as being essentially unstoppable by their team. And it's just not accurate.
Yeah, and
Can
sorry
I
to
just
trigger the
punch
chat.
Vista in the
Yeah,
face?
can I just punch Wrist in the face, please? Um, yeah, a total bummer. I mean, and two things I want to touch on. Well, Vic, you say as if she didn't do it on purpose. I think there is a lot of Taylor that wants to throw herself like at the chaos, at the craziness. But I did find it curious here how like she mentions that both Glory Girl and
Two
Panacea
plus
are
four
some of the
times
most
five. You
well.
got to get a pick of that
Oh,
beetle. Sorry.
oh yes, please. Yeah, toss it in the Discord. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah. But it's interesting because she notes that Glory Girl and Panacea are both some of the most well-known heroes, especially like Kid Capes, especially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then proceeds to not recognize Amy right off the bat, which I would think if I mean, maybe it's just, not expecting it. But given that Taylor seemed to be kind of a huge Cape nerd, I would have thought she would have recognized her like immediately.
Yeah, well, I mean, the yeah, I would have sort of expected it too. The line here I'm gonna just pull out is Tattletale entering the scene. It goes uh or it's when Tattletale's talking to Taylor and she goes, "That last bit sucks." Tattletale sympathized. Then she took a closer look at Panacea. "Shit, Amy Dallin? Gru's gonna kill me for missing that. You look different than you did when you were showing up in the news. Are you wearing your hair differently?" So,
Oh yeah. Okay. So I
and
guess that does work to her benefit.
yeah, and Vic says she's been staying out of the media's eye lately.
Yeah, I remember that line, but I would have thought, yeah. I guess I maybe I just expected too much out of young Taylor. Now Tattletale, come on,
Come on,
should have had that
Tattletale.
one down. Um, yeah. So I guess yeah, if we're gonna jump into, oh no, let's
No,
let's
yeah,
do
yeah. We're gonna
the
continue
this
the. I
bit
just
here.
wanted to use that as a little example.
Yeah. So yeah, once Glory Girl kind of enters here, she makes a point of her and Panacea like showing sort of they're exuding this confidence when working side by side, and they make their sort of closeness very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Gory Girl just has a very casual "Hey sis," um, which kind of shows that they're treating all of this very cavalierly, or at least they're making it appear that way. Um, but that's also what gives sort of Taylor the power in this instance. Again, more shifting power dynamics, but Taylor that's sort of when Taylor grabs Panacea and takes her at knife point, which is basically like, fine, if you're going to be all close to each other, then I guess you're probably not going to enjoy your sister being at knife point.
Yeah. Um, she really just goes for it. I feel like it's a big. You know what? It's
It's a
not
big
really
leap to take
like
a
like
hostage.
that's a big. Everything here is a big leap because she did the
Yeah.
really low. I guess it's high stakes in that Black Widows are scary, but somehow in my mind I never like imagined her actually biting someone with the Black Widow. But like I think it's just because the knife to the throat is like a real world like visceral thing that even though it's actually smaller than like what she did to Clock Blocker, which was heinous and unconscionable. Um,
Yes, absolutely fucking terrible. But
yeah.
there's a level of separation between that, where she's kind of like sending her bugs off to go do a dirty, nasty deed,
Hmm.
versus with her own hands, pulling someone in to hold a knife to their throat. It's pretty visceral stuff.
Yeah. Taylor's just depressed, or Vic says Taylor's just depressed. She's an only child. We all know that's a miserable life to live.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I did not have that problem, but especially if you're being the saddest bug girl, like I can imagine feeling pretty isolated there. Uh,
Yeah.
so to see a healthy sisterly relationship, well, healthy in big fucking quotes.
And that's a psychic
Uh,
attack against Taylor just on its own.
yep,
People having,
yep.
like,
Relationships of any kind.
yes. Uh,
Um,
let's see
yeah,
here.
yeah. So I think we're on this next one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you want to pick up there.
Yeah, I was just making sure where we were. So Taylor uses this against them and takes Panacea hostage at knife point. We just said that, but then Glory Girl approaches Taylor, and then oh wait, that's a kind of a repeat too. My God, I'm all mixed about. They both banter when they and say like it seems we're at a stalemate, and then they sort
I
of
love Taylor's response to that, and it's just like, true.
yeah. Um, when she's responding to that moment, uh, it's because she's waiting for her side to come in. Like the very next line is Glory Girl saying, "So are we just going to stand around here until reinforcements arrive for one side or the other? Tip the scales in someone's favor?" I could live with that. Last I saw, my
Yep,
side was winning.
I loved that. I loved that very much.
Yeah.
Um, and then Gory Girl is basically like, actually, I got Aegis out of a pinch, so he's keeping your fools pretty busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it does continue on to lead to more of the banter.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout this Panacea, yeah, I'm looking at the line you're on because yeah, our order's a little scrambled here, folks. This is a very slapdash outline we've given ourselves, so apologies if we're scrambling around a bit, but
Oh, M just said,
um,
only child and dead mom. Sheesh.
yeah, pretty rough stuff. Like give her a break, please. Um, but yeah, so during all of this, Panacea is like continuously threatening Taylor with more body horror, basically like, oh, I'll make all your food taste like bile, or I'll give you cancer, stuff that she probably has never done, but is definitely very capable of that. And even furthermore, her and Glory Girl are, you know, putting on the theatrics of it all, putting on a little show, and sort of making it clear that they're privileged and likely and potentially revealing a little bit too much information through all of this. Kind of not knowing Tattletale is in the outer reaches, but they mention like the country club, their relations to high society.
And the fact that the Protectorate are coming, I feel like we didn't write it down, but
Yeah,
that's worth mentioning.
very much so. Yeah, yeah, and basically being like, we have an overwhelming amount of forces coming.
Yeah, it's just like
And
connections, connections, connections. Look at this, and like in that way, they're kind of they're trying to crush her under the weight of fear. You know,
yeah,
one of Glory
absolutely.
Girl's main tools is fear, whether it's like directly through her aura or like this kind of tactic. But yeah,
Right. Right. And I think a lot of this conversation
hug, and the
we
audiobook says aims as Emes.
MS yeah, that's not always great. Um but yeah, so like I think they're using their connections as a form of leverage here, and I just wanted to know it has very my dad could beat up your dad up vibes, and it kind of works. It definitely shuts Taylor up for a moment, and the bigger
Mm-hmm.
part of all of that is it's just widening the gap between sort of the us and them of it all.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's making it clear that like us heroes are up here in high society, while you dumbass villains are stupid big dumb idiots.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, obviously that's maybe not the most sophisticated way to explain that, but you get me.
Right, I agree. Like when you had brought up the idea that it's the my dad could beat up your dad, like I thought that was a really like good way of putting it. We're from a superhero family. My dad could definitely beat up your wimpy dad, Danny. Come on.
It would be really funny if they directly brought out Danny being like, look at him, he's all gangly and stupid.
You think that guy can fight my dad? He doesn't even need powers. He's just gonna beat him up.
Look, my dad owns a dealership, all right, so we don't even need to deal with this.
Yeah,
Um,
I think we're
yeah,
kind of getting to um
yeah, I
this
think right where
point
you're
and
at, yeah,
then leading into here. So if you wanna, I think, keep grabbing it.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
on a roll.
Um, oh, I'm going for it. And kind of through all of the bantering and the threats and all that jazz, we kind of find that Taylor is pretty goddamn adept at the banter. I mean, until she gets sort of halted by the threat of tons of reinforcements, but she's knowledgeable enough to call their bluffs. Like I think Glory Girl says something like, "Oh, I'll make sure you get leniency," blah blah blah, and Taylor's like, "Fuck you! I know you can't even do that, so shut up." And this is, I'm not gonna let her go. Um, and I think that hits us into the point where, Tattletale enters the scene, and I think at that moment Taylor's like tells him to stop talking, and Tattletale's like, "Do they have to?" It's so interesting, or whatever she says. And basically, she kind of is subtly making it known to Taylor, like, "No, no, 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 keep him talking because this is how my shit works." Um,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
no, 2 + 4 × 5, the Beatles on the ceiling now, and you can't reach it. Well, get us a damn photo, or maybe it's in the
Well, but
Discord
but
already, but.
already said there's the video and got rid of the
Oh.
audio. So I think it's already on
Oh,
there.
now I'm seeing it. Okay, I see it now. I'm so sorry. I
All
didn't
right.
mean to curse at
I'm
you. I
I'm
would never
gonna
do cusses.
I'm gonna open it. I'm gonna look.
Okay, we're gonna look. We're gonna do a reaction. Oh, whoa.
React stream.
Oh, this music is intense. Oh no, Taylor is trying to kill you IRL.
Oh my god, I can't show my YouTube.
Man, that music really got me going. That really lit up the scene.
What a disaster. Well, that's right. I
And
listen to ASMR. I'm the worst person. Um. So
Oh, that was so good.
go Beetle go. Um.
Yeah, thank you for that. 2 + 4 × 5.
Yes, and then
Um,
also Victoria was right in calling out Story Victoria, thinking at the end of the "My dad could beat up your dad," and he has better fashion, and about I guess Taylor's dad, and he has terrible
And he
fashion
has
sense.
terrible fashion sense. Ew.
She
I
would
would really
totally
have
think about that
expected
though.
an ew. Very much so. Um, but we're at the point where, Tattletale enters the scene, and with a very casual, "Hey, Glory Hole,"
It's
Like
such a good
very
line.
just maximum casual as she
Yeah.
enters the scene. Um, and immediately Tattletale gets to call in bluffs.
She
And
hangs out
doesn't
with these
really
three all the time. It's no big deal.
all the time, NBD. And she doesn't really seem particularly like shaken or bothered. I mean, and again, we're hitting those theatrics, but she doesn't seem really bothered that Taylor is kind of in this stalemate, stuck where she's at. But I think she even says something like, "Ah, she seems fine. She's got it under control." Um, G plus 4 times 5. My mom was on the phone in the background, so I had to replace the audio with something. Well, that something was a real banger.
I was a fan.
Very much so.
Let's see here. Um,
Um, yeah,
tell.
and I guess just oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was.
Oh, so I just read that, but
Mm,
what I did want to know is that that basically Tattletale sort of keeps everyone chatting, keeps them talking before Taylor really even catches on that, oh yeah, okay, we're doing a bit now. She's got to start yes-anding her.
mm-hmm. For sure. For sure.
Hmm.
Um, and then Taylor starts to realize that the misinformation from the bugs is coming from these specific ones on Amy from like Tattletale showing her where they are. She doesn't like
Hmm.
really even get it at first. Um,
No,
but
she's like, there's a laser pointer here. No one else can see it, so this has got to be for me.
yeah,
This has got to be for me. But what's she trying to tell me?
yeah. I mean, I think she picks up on it pretty quick though.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. There's just a slight moment of hesitation there.
Mm-hmm. And then this is the first time like that Taylor has described her power as painful.
Hmm.
She even had said like when she lets in all the senses, that it's not painful then. It's only been described that way now, and I think that's sort of a
Hmm.
big deal. Is that Amy can turn people's powers against them in a way that like
Hmm.
even all the negative aspects in Taylor's brain of her power are nothing compared to Amy, who can
Right.
make you just hurt yourself. Uh,
Yeah, I thought it was cool that or cool, more just interesting, I guess, but that she didn't really start to experience the feedback loop, like that pain, until she specifically tried to give her bug a command, because she was saying like, "Oh, I can, loosely sense some spiders or whatever," but the pain didn't really hit until she tries to tell them to do something.
well, yeah, throughout the previous two chapters, one of the nuances to it, I think, was that every time that she would order her bugs to do something new, like regardless of what the order was, it would build up the pain slightly. And it's just finally
Hmm.
getting to the point where it's like really bad now. And then when she focuses on the
Right.
specific spider of the three, one of them, and like notices it, or like when she moves it, then
Hmm.
that is so jarring that it like let's see, I think she accidentally squishes it basically.
Yeah, yeah, she does it as like basically she's flinching from the pain of having touched it,
Yeah, it
because
says that it
that's
was
what starts like set her brain on fire, and then she squishes it as like a reflex.
yeah, either by impulse or by reflex. As I flinched at the pain, I crushed it between my fingers.
Hmm.
Yeah. And she had pulled it off her gently and felt the pain in my head worsen in with the contact, the movement.
Hmm.
So I think by throwing its position off when she had already been like part of the problem was like false positioning data, I guess. I don't know. But
Yeah,
in any
yeah,
case, it was too much. But
it was too much.
it was just what she needed
Um,
to kill.
Absolutely. And then I did like that she describes that sensation basically with a computer metaphor, basically saying like, oh, it'd be as if thousands of error messages had popped up in her brain, feeding her the wrong information. Um, she makes another technology based metaphor. I can't remember the exact moment, but she describes it's as if someone had like created a feedback loop on like a security monitor. Um, it's interesting just where she draws her metaphors from. Very rooted in like yeah, technology and more practical things rather than anything like lofty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
just a little tidbit.
I'm kind of like, sorry, I got like lost thinking about the when you were saying that the I got completely distracted thinking about Kidwin's laser thing.
Okay, what about it though?
Well, just like, sorry, I was just having a moment. Like laser is down here, and I was thinking
Oh,
about that,
right.
and then
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was like stroking out in the corner.
Okay, that's fine. Here, I'll get us back on track
Okay,
here.
I'm
Um,
totally sorry about that.
you're totally fine. Follow my lead here. Okay, so Taylor starts to realize the misinformation from the bugs, largely with Tattletale's help. Um, although that does kind of roll out a little bit later. Oh yeah, we just hit that
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah.
So
So,
the heroes demonstrate here that they aren't really fully underestimating her, but they are also portraying overconfidence.
hmm
They're being tactical in how they're maneuvering here, but definitely still trying to push Taylor and Tattletale's buttons a little bit, especially throughout this. Glory Girl continues to like call them dumb and stuff like that, and regarding Tattletale, that's going to be a big like you thinkers are pretty. You had mentioned this when we were chatting earlier. It's like thinkers are particularly sensitive to having their intelligence questioned. Um, oh yeah, just to continue on the other stuff. 2 + 4 × 5. Taylor is proficient with computers, as we can see in that chapter in Arc 2 when she does her computer class homework in like 10 minutes. Um, Oh, and the Beatles back and about to be murdered. So
my
good, get that
word.
Taylor out of your life. But yeah. So I mean, Taylor's a big nerd, and that definitely lends to where she draws her metaphors and all that from.
I agree. I
Um,
agree. And she also like her thought processes will change over time and she'll even like notice and comment on it in her own monologue, but there's this one point later where she's like says some really bloody minded like metaphor and then she's like, what does it say that that's the way I'm just thinking about like a regular situation?"
right. Kind of a who am I? What am I doing?
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, yeah. Do you want to pick up where your
Yeah.
cursor's at?
Yeah, Tattletale strings the heroes along with her chatter and threatens them with their own secrets. Um, you don't give information in a gloating or you don't give information with a gloating monologue, and then she does it anyway, despite saying that. But smartly,
That was a funny moment. Yeah. She's doing it definitely with reason, and she says like,
and she
"No reason
lies
not to."
mostly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, true psychics can't exist. Um, I think that this line. I think it's good because it opens the can of worms of them talking about sort of the
Worms.
limit
The can of worms.
worms of talking about like the limits of powers and like Tattletale saying like, what do you mean limits of powers? We don't know that there are limits of powers. It's like totally unclear to us like what the bounds of these things are. Like all of them are
Mm-hmm.
different. Like tons of people can do physics breaky stuff. There's two of them just outside this building. She doesn't
Yeah, I
mention that,
love
but
that.
like, she
No,
talks about
I
like
think she
legend.
does. She says
Oh,
like no she yeah, she says like Clockblocker can literally mess with the forces of time.
oh yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
Vista can mess with physics. It's yeah, it is exactly that. It's like two of them are outside right now on your side. Um like what are you talking about? Why couldn't there be a sidekick?
Yeah, and then it
Um
sort of spirals out because she starts talking about like how people don't want to believe there are other psychics because of the only person they think is a psychic is the Seamerg. Um,
mhm.
but the thing is, well, it's like I think she's just trying to like make herself seem like scarier and stuff, maybe. But
Yeah.
it's like
Kind of
a
trying to take the
weird,
air out of her sails a little bit for
yeah.
Tattletale.
I think Tattletale, it's like a weird,
Like a pride point
like pride
almost.
point to be associated with the C word. Yeah. It's just an
Yeah,
odd moment. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I do like Vic saying, and I wholly agree. It's like, yeah, Glory Girl just seems dumb here. Like mentioning your brain would be so big. It is super funny. It's just like you'd have to have such a big brain if you were gonna read my mind. Eat shit. Her boyfriend can literally sense people's emotions. Sounds pretty psychic to me. Also, yeah, there's so many other powers that like dance around sort of psychic abilities, but
I fully
Tattletales is probably
agree.
one of the more direct versions of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are some people who can like thinker game out into the future what someone would say to something, so that's like
Right.
kind of mind reading almost, because you can like
Yeah.
see, I guess you can't read their mind, but you can see what they would say in any scenario or whatever. And so there's like tons of ways that you can get like ridiculous similar levels of information.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I like just the two comments here. Victoria's taken university classes and taken those to heart without quite looking into things, said Megafire7. And yeah, that's
yeah.
absolutely it. It's pretty much anyone who's like just into their freshman year of college and then goes back home to be like, I've been to college. I've got it all sorted out, everybody, so stand back. And then Sigma goes on to say, of course, a friend bringer would be able to read your mind. That's how they instantly know how to be your best bud.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Uh, that's pretty brilliant, though. I mean, yeah, TT is the ultimate friend bringer. Um, which God, I love that phrase. Is that from somewhere? Because if not, you need to coin that instantly.
I can't get over it right now. I just want to say it, and I'm like holding back because I know I'm gonna say it later. So I'm gonna save it.
Okay,
Not
okay.
just gonna.
Whew.
I'm not gonna do the thing where you say elbow too many times and then you don't know what one is.
Friend bringer, friend
Damn
bringer,
it!
frelbo. Shit.
I'm already caught in a
Um,
loop. Anyway, so it we get we get that interesting discussion with Tattletale and so forth.
mhm,
And then she brings the attention to the feedback loop spiders to Taylor with her laser pointer. Um, and I feel
mhm,
like it's worth mentioning. I think we didn't pull it out here, but when she's getting the laser pointer, there's a moment where Glory Girl thinks that she was pulling a gun out, and
yeah. She has a pretty intense reaction to that.
yeah, let's see here. Gun. Yeah, so Tattletale goes over to the branch manager's desk and opens a drawer, and then Glory Girl says, sorry, it goes, "You pull a gun out of that drawer," Glory Girl threatened, "and I'll fucking break you." "Enough with the threats you can't follow up on. It's not a gun." Tattletale grinned, raising her hands again. A keychain dangled from her left thumb. And the funny thing is, she's literally already holding a gun.
Hey, she's like, "Shut up! Like we're not even on that yet. We'll get there. Don't worry. A gun's coming."
Yeah. But it kind of Glory Girl just doesn't like guns, doesn't like what they sort of imply, because she believes in the same cops and robbers shit that Tattletale believes in,
Oh,
like almost
absolutely.
wholesale. It's incredible, actually, how closely their like weird worldviews align, despite the fact that they're on opposite sides of it. Um,
Right, right. And I think it's kind of like the collective agreement where like, you know, a gun only means one thing. Like a gun I think we talked about this last time as well or at some point, but you don't bring out a gun unless someone's trying to die or or it's a last ditch
yeah,
effort kind of thing.
I forget how she
Um
phrases it though, because in like a much later portion, there's a part um, where from Victoria's perspective, it's like she thinks about the fact that Tattletale. I think she uses the game shooter phrase, which gets thrown around more in
mhm.
Ward. But I'm not sure if it's that exact phrasing. But there's something around like Tattletale was still following the game. She wasn't trying to kill me when she fired that gun. She was just using it to break my power.
Right.
So like she
Yeah. Which
acknowledges that, and she like doesn't like that Tattletale used a gun, but she's not like oh she
not
tried to
holding
kill
it
me.
against her.
Like
Yeah.
she's not like
Yeah.
she's not pretending that Tattletale was trying to kill her because she knows that wasn't true.
Right. Yeah. And I think she can clearly extrapolate, especially after the fact. Like, she's smart enough to know what she was doing. Damn it.
And she did it so exactly. So
You're right. Right. And she does kind of like explain her thought process as she's going through all of this.
hmm yeah, it's kind of
Kind of
funny how
breaking
on the
down how the
table
power works.
everything is. She like just talks about the whole plan practically.
Right. And it's again, is it overconfidence or is it a tactical move? A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's
Um,
great.
I think this is where we're at this point where finally,
Yeah.
um, our main lady, the bug, has killed all of the bad bugs, and the headache is
Hmm.
gone. And I think the way she describes it is really good when she uh, completes it. She says that. Where'd that last? Um, crap. Last.
Here, while you figure yourself out
Mhm.
there, I'll read Vic's comment here. She just wants people to know she's being smart, and yes, that I think that's absolutely a big part of it, leaning into the theatrics of it all, because she does fully fucking acknowledge, like, yeah,
And leaning into her
clearly,
nature,
y-
like her kind of
very,
obsession with
yeah,
being the top and the
the smartest
smartest.
person in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You can't just do things and explain it later, because then people would think, "Well, I didn't know that." Uh, and yeah, I think it's, I don't know, especially just from like a writer's perspective. It probably makes your life a lot easier to not have to have like multiple conversations on the matter. Like it would be not especially entertaining for her to explain to Taylor after the fact, like, "Oh yeah, that's why I was being such a shit." I think she can, in the moment, make being a shit part of her plan, and it works out
Yeah.
great.
Um, I'm having like a weirdly hard time finding this exact spot, but
Where she kills
I-
the bugs.
yeah, where she kills the final one. But we can move on. It's okay.
Sure, sure, sure. I mean, I think you know we both had a little bit on this. Once she, the fact that she's killing these bugs and immediately feeling this sort of sense of relief. I thought just that whole use of Panacea's power was super, super interesting, and it kind of shows the reaches of that power, as well as Tattletale's observational skills in this moment, because Panacea was not only able to, like, yeah, like completely dismantle sort of Taylor's plan or her defenses here just by altering the bugs, but it showed she was able to, one, detect the biology of the bugs, two, understand that those bugs had some kind of psychic link to Taylor. And I mean, I guess Taylor more or less said that, but to be able to figure out the exact how of all of that and then reverse engineer it into creating this weird feedback loop, I thought was super, super impressive. And for Tattletale to sort of immediately be able to pick up on that, and she says it right out the gate. She's like, "Oh, I think I know what's going on. Let me fix that for you." Just,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's impressive on both sides for Panacea to figure out the how, and Tattletale to be like, "Oh yeah, I get it."
Yeah, cuz she can like sense like without necessarily being conscious of it, sense things like Taylor's power reaching out to the bugs and what's being sent back, like that there are signals on some plane of existence or whatever, like
Right.
some connection is there. So she can sense things like that, even if she's not always thinking about it. And if something just if the vibes are off, then she's like, yeah, there's something wrong with those bugs. The vibes are off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's doing a cursory vibe check wherever she goes, and it occasionally comes out with some brilliant information. And just to touch on the chat again here,
Mm-hmm.
Megafire
Mm-hmm.
7, and isn't regarding Tattletale's sort of explanation of everything. And isn't it convenient that Tattletale is that kind of character? Absolutely. And then asks a question. Not sure how familiar you are with J Maniac's thesis about what powers represent. I am not at all
I'm
familiar with that.
reasonably familiar. I've seen the videos, but not recently.
Hmm.
And
Can you
yeah,
give me the highlights?
so I'll give you the highlights from what I remember. Hopefully this is not terribly butchering it, but essentially the idea is that the different characters represent like different writing tools or different like parts of stories, and like
Ah,
Tattletale is exposition. And that's why like
absolutely. Yeah.
Cone's well, can't say that. Can't jump that far ahead in the story. My brain.
Oop.
I was like gonna use a really big example, and then I'm like, nope, don't say it.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Um, so some characters represent some things, and an
Hmm.
example of one that we have in front of us is Tattletale being exposition, like just as a concept.
Yeah, and
Um,
she performs that role perfectly.
yeah, she also performs the role directly within the story, so
Hmm.
yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll have
into
to
it.
take a watch of that because that sounds
Yeah.
interesting.
I'll link that video maybe in the let's put it at the bottom here.
Yeah,
Link J Maniac
yeah, and then
vid in
I'll
Discord.
read Vic's next comment as well. Regarding like Amy's power in this case. Yeah, like can Amy see Taylor's connection with the bugs? I think they show later that Amy can see into people's powers through contact, which is yeah. I mean, I guess so. That must be what it is. But what a vast world of knowledge to be able to like tap into just via a fucking bug. Like it's impressive no matter how you slice
Um 2 plus 4 times 5 says Tattletale's my favorite exposition device. Yeah, same.
it. Yeah, 100% same.
Um So I did find it, and I realized it's like just under the one where she accidentally crushes the thing. It's like the first bug she kills. Immediately, the pain in my head dropped to a fraction of what it had been. The relief was so intense, it was almost euphoric. So yeah, um,
Yeah,
that
so you
was
can only
kind of what I
imagine
wanted to
like
pull
the
out.
excruciating pain she was enduring that, or at least
Oh
major
yeah, Megafire,
discomfort.
that's totally cool. If you post the links, that is awesome. Um,
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I just didn't want to like put work on viewers, I guess. Um, except for when beetles are in the room, then I'm putting work on viewers.
Yeah, then we're making very specific demands for proof. Pixar,
exactly.
it didn't beetle.
Exactly. Um,
Uh,
are we kind
cool.
of right
Yeah, we're kind of
here?
right here. And I think just I want to touch on this
Yeah,
little bit of
yeah.
it. Um, yeah, so like once Taylor is able to kill the bugs, she regains her mental faculties, and then she immediately kind of swings to feeling herself enough again to start being proactive in the fight rather than just simply reactionary. And she starts in a major way yes-anding Tattletale. She can finally with more clarity understand what Tattletale's approach is actually trying to accomplish and immediately like gets in on the game. And okay, I guess we'll lead into the ending of 3.11 here. Tattletale ends the chapter by saying, "I've got the most powerful weapon of all, information," and she has a very wry smile in this. And I think that's a fantastic note to end that chapter on because, of course, that's Tattletale's opinion. Like, naturally, her power would really only lead her to say that. And in a major way, I think, information is one of the most powerful weapons. But sometimes a real weapon is the most powerful weapon.
And as you mentioned here in the document, also the most powerful weapon of all, bees.
I wish she that okay, that was part of what I was thinking of earlier when I said the Boondock Saints thing. I really loved the idea of Taylor just opening a trench coat to be filled with bees instead of like six
Instead of
guns.
guns. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I thought,
she basically does that later onto somebody.
God, it's so good, so fucking good.
Bees.
Um, bees. I think with bees we can lead ourselves into 3.12, which picks up immediately following that exchange with Glory Girl. Um, I think she says like information as a question.
M says
Um,
something
or
here.
she says it confirmingly. Oh yeah, go for it.
Uh, Bug in the eyes is definitely a more powerful weapon than information. Oh, and then
Wholehearted, wholehearted agree.
Sam said maybe she didn't want to be a buzzkill.
Oh, come on with all that. Come on. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, let's switch to the art.
Oh, well, hang on. Well, I hate to say this, but I did plan to change the art when it happens in the chapter.
Ah,
So
okay.
I do
Okay.
have an on purpose point when I'm going to change it.
Mm-hmm. And the chat's going on here. Let's see. But Taylor, all 2 + 4 × 5 says, but Taylor also gets information from the bug she sends into people's eyes. That's true. That's absolutely true. You probably get a nice read of the optical nerves and all the squishiness going on in there.
Yeah.
Sigma compliments Samantha's punnery. By the way, for those who don't know, Samantha is my wife, and so if you hear her chittering laughter from the other room, that's why. And this is why we wear proper goggles, folks. Abso-goddamn-lutely. I don't want those bugs in the eyes.
And clearly we hate
Um,
Vic, as
and Vic, we're so
said by the
sorry. We
chat.
do. Yeah, we don't like you. We don't like your art. And honestly, like, I'm kind of gonna usurp your role here, so I'm so sorry for all of that.
Vic is right. We got to get a good, my wife. You got to say it.
I'm sorry. We don't. I'm sorry. What does that say?
My wife.
My wife. Uh,
We're cursed.
I'll tell you just as a personal thing. I literally did say my wife that way for the first like 3 months of us being married. Everything was just my wife.
See, this is why I can't marry anyone, because like I will do that, and it's just
It was
it's gonna
impossible
happen.
not to. The day of the wedding, I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad now you're my wife." I think it got a little old finally, but
Yeah.
yeah. At least they're honest, Victoria. Vic, I'm so sorry. I don't actually. We love you. We appreciate you. So please, I'm not going to usurp anything. I wouldn't know how to do that anyway, and I have no visual art skills. So please keep it up.
Only auditory art skills.
That's all I have in this world aside from my wife
Those are the two things, and the cats.
and the cats. Okay, 3 things: my wife, auditory skills, and cats. All right. 3.12. Let's do this thing. Oh, you would love if I drew the next chapter, or I can take an honest swing in it, and it's gonna be straight up garbage, and not in a funny like, oh, it's like 4-year-old put it on the fridge kind of art, and that's about the best you're gonna get. But
I
I could, I would take a stab at one for funsies.
I will say that might be a good, now might be a good time to do that, because we kind of have a bye week. We have a week where we're skipping a chapter review next week. That's going to be an announcement at the end. But this way you could draw the chapter art, and we could have like a hilarious shitty 3.x and like a good
Okay.
Vic
Oh,
3.x. A bye week, yes indeed, Vic.
ayo. You know what?
With me, every week is a bye week, but
I will give you honest consideration as to drawing the 3.x art. I admittedly don't remember what 3.x is, so
it's
I'll have to
the
listen again.
wards post gaming this fight
Mm.
after they
Oh,
lose.
are you sure you want me to do the super shitty one for that chapter? Because it'll be super shitty. Okay,
Well,
well,
no,
whatever. We'll
but
talk about it.
you see, we'll have next week when we don't actually review the chapter, and then the week after
All
that where we review the
right.
chapter and we use Victoria's good art.
Okay, yeah. Then I'll do the bye week. All right, sounds good.
Yeah,
Uh,
we got some stuff scheduled, but we'll talk about it at the
yeah,
end.
yeah. All right, lead us back in.
Okay, so I feel like we were kind of still up here.
Yep.
Tattletale starts bringing up that Glory Girl and Panacea have family secrets, and Glory Girl at first like doesn't really know what she's talking about, and then she does get like super defensive once they start bringing up Panacea's adoption. And even though Glory
Mm.
Girl's saying that it's like public knowledge anyway, she's still like, it's a hot topic.
Well, I like that Glory Girl's like, these are public records, and Tattletale's like, yeah, fucking falsified records, nerds. Um,
She should
you big
end every
liars.
statement with nerds.
I really wish she did. And through all of this, Glory Girl gets real defensive, starts getting real grumpy. And kind of where you're hovering there
Oh
is
yeah.
Taylor. This is where Taylor starts finally picking up on what the hell's going on with Tattletale, and she says, "Whatever Tattletale was doing, I sensed it was giving us more control over the situation." And she commented, "This is new to me. I'm sort of intrigued." And this we
Yeah, this
noted,
this pulls back to like the Taylor sort of like betraying her own experience. Like it's very moment to
yeah.
moment, so she's doing it without thinking about it. And like
Hmm.
that was mentioned by Vic in the chat earlier that she's not thinking about like the like she's not self-justifying in this scene
No,
in the
no,
way
she
that she
not at
does a
all.
lot of times. Um it's just like she's just rolling with it. But like regardless of how she got there, she's being this is her Madison moment. She's being a real beta bully.
A real beta bully.
Yeah.
Very much just yes anding Tattletale's proper bullying. And she's directly pulling references from her own experience there, and by which we mean betraying it, because these are the exact tactics her bullies at school used on her, and now she's like, now I can finally leverage my own bullying.
Yeah. And then you had highlighted this terrible line, like
Oh,
it
oh, I
sucks. Tattletale sucks. I love
it's
Tattletale,
a
but
yeah, it's a bad line. I don't like it,
want to know
but
who your daddy is? Ugh.
yeah,
Vomit emoji.
yeah,
I
she
mean,
says this
she
to
was trying to make them
Panacea.
vomit emoji in their own costumes, but
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just not great. Although it does successfully get under the skin of these two
it sure
heroes.
got under my skin.
Yeah, it was yucky and gross. And personally, I'll say it in front of God and everybody, not a fan.
Not a fan.
Not a fan one bit. Um, and then yeah. So and with that, immediately following that line, I like this moment of exposition here in the text.
Mm.
For a few long moments, there was only the sound of rain pattering on the windowsill and the buzzing of insects still in the room. And Taylor breaks that silence, sort of in a half whisper, and says, "It's that bad?" Half to Panacea or she says as much to Panacea as to Tattletale there, which I thought was fucking great.
Yeah, it's a great moment. Like she's just continuing the thing, like her performance, and I mean, she really does want to know, but it's just like he's just being a real dick.
Yeah, she's really leaning into this bully persona of hers as a villain, and it's gross and it's bad, but I guess it works.
Yeah. I think you had pointed out here that Tattletale like methodically describes how revealing this information could tear their family apart, um, and like eat away at Amy's life, and
Mm,
how um, she would have this like feedback loop of being afraid that she's either acting good to avoid being like her nature, or like like wondering if she's acting good because she's the opposite, like she's just doing it to be the opposite of her father, and like having all
right.
this like crisis of faith kind of problems like from a bunch of different
Yeah.
angles.
Yeah, and it kind of shows like it would literally tear their entire family apart, just because it would introduce that doubt into Amy's head, which would be a constant source of stress for her, and she'd always want to know more once she figured out the name. So like it's basically just like this little droplet of information here would literally change everything for all of you.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's like, and that's not even getting into the secret that they like
that they kind of hint at a little bit
that they
later.
hint at but don't even drop what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dad
Mm-hmm.
secret is not even the big secret.
No, that's the low-hanging fruit of secrets here, but there is a much juicier nugget, just a little bit of
There's
ways
a
out.
nug.
A sweet fucking dank nug of information.
There's probably multiple types. There's chicken nuggies and there's also weed nugs. I mean, all the nugs.
There's definitely in this universe there are certainly some chicken nuggies later on. As
Yeah.
far as dank nugs, I don't think we get enough exposure to dank nugs in this story. That's one of my biggest critiques for Wildbow is, where are all the dank nugs?
I think Blasto has hoarded all of the dank nugs. Um,
uh,
yeah, here is
but
where Tattletale gives them the
yeah.
offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can kind of keep
Mm-hmm.
going on that if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, and I'll kind of lead into the stuff just before as well. As Tattletale kind of continues and ups the stakes for her sort of big reveal, she's really setting a stage here. Panacea starts to lose it a bit. She's getting really emotional in her responses. Literally the shut up, just shut up. You can
Mm-hmm.
tell her. Yeah, it says her voice is very thick with emotion there. And basically, as she kind of continues to ramp that up, she can see Tattletale can see she's like getting the upper hand here. She's again shifting the power dynamics, and she tries to make a deal with them, and basically says, "If you just get into the vault, then I'll keep my mouth shut." Into the bank vault specifically. And then Glory Girl, at that offer, basically says, "Fuck that. I'll take the heat." But in this case, the heat is not hers to take. Tattletale goes on to describe like, "Oh no 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 no, you big dumb piece of shit.
Well,
This
she
isn't even
was.
about you."
Yeah, it's um the amazing line. That's
Oh
uh
yeah 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 yeah. Uh,
um what does he say? Principled. I'm trying to find it in the.
yeah, very very principled,
Yeah,
very self-involved too. Um, which
yeah.
one is just a brilliant tattletale line there, and I'll,
And the
I'll just
delivery in the
I'll,
main audiobook is really good.
I was really impressed with that one. I'll kind of read a little bit of the rest of that line there too. Very principled, very self-involved too. That you think the secret and the consequences have to do with you and your overzealous nature. They don't. They have to do with her. Um, which and yeah, and she goes on to basically be like, you're not gonna be happy either, but the aftermath, the humiliation, shame, and heartbreak are hers to deal with. That's paraphrasing, but you get it.
Yeah.
um
I wanted to read your
so
dramatic zone down here once we get to this, by the way. I
well,
wanted
okay,
to I wanted to kind of one shot this because I thought this would be
okay,
a
please,
funny
yeah.
dramatic read. But not to skip down to it early. I just wanted to tell you that I was interested in that.
Okay, good to know. um yeah, so basically, yeah, Glory Girl's like, screw that, I'll do it. Tattletale explains why that's not how this is going to go. um and I think this is when Tattletale starts to apply pressure, and starts to count down a little bit, basically saying like, all right, clock's ticking here. um and that's once she gets to, oh, what is it, 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Panacea literally tears out of Taylor's grip, basically flipping out so hard here that she almost cuts her own throat on the knife Taylor is holding, and Taylor literally has to pull away because, again, we have to keep up the big facade here. Like, Taylor's not trying to harm Panacea; she's just trying to make her do what she wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so Glory Girl kind of takes advantage of this chaos and goes straight for Tattletale, pinning her to the wall and covering her mouth. And this, by the way, this whole interaction here is a great like back and forth. It's like a really nice tete-a-tete of the power shifting between each side pretty repeatedly.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna address the chat real quick,
Please,
going
yeah.
back a little ways. Um so let's see here. First, 2 plus 4 times 5 said, Taylor's scared of drugs. Sucks to be such a lame POV character. Then Sam had said, Taylor's just a little and doesn't know better.
That is
Megafire
the
said,
dang truth.
oh boy, the secret. And then Greg said, she becomes Panexia.
Ayo, I get it.
Taylor fully whacks Panacea across the head, which is rough. Yeah,
Rough.
that does happen. We were about to mention that Taylor, also taking advantage of the shift in power, cracks Amy upside the brain with her baton, in the words of David.
Yeah, a pretty brutal strike, which like
Mhm.
not to linger on that too long, but I really love these moments where Taylor is like, "Fuck it, let's do this thing," and just goes for the hit. Like she really doesn't hesitate at all when it comes to physical violence.
Yeah, she gets. It's like I said in the earlier part up in the stuff here. She's just not afraid to mix it up with the hand to hand weapons in like a super fight. Like she's just like, all right, get over here.
Yeah, which like especially given the people she's dealing with is such a bold move because you have someone who is more or less invincible and then someone who could literally turn you into a puddle of soup if you wanted. Like it's pretty fucking the stakes are super high here and she's like, "Fuck it. Let's do this thing."
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Um, and then yeah, Glory Girl gets pretty pissed. She sees the whole thing. Nobody fucks with my family. And then she just like throws. She cranks out her fear aura first to make
Mhm.
her extra scared, and then she throws Tattletale directly at Taylor. I mean, that means that she hits for however much Taylor feels it. Like Glory Girl is hitting Tattletale point blank range with her power. um,
Yeah, with the emotion power specifically is what you're saying, right?
yeah, with the fear aura.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So like she gets like a huge dose of like ridiculous animal panic. Um
I wonder that does make me wonder a little bit like given the nature of Tattletale's power, does it give her sort of enough input or information to sort of see through stuff like that, or is it like the two sides of like emotional versus sort of mental faculties in those
I
cases?
think maybe she could keep herself operating more than someone without a super brain, but like she's still flipping out afraid, cuz it
Right,
the emotion
right. How
effects
could you not?
hit thinkers more or less the same level as like just
Okay.
anybody else. Like it seems
Yeah.
like the only people who have resistance to emotion powers are when they themselves have an emotion power.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Um, but yeah, I just love that she like ragdoll tosses Tattletale at Taylor, and
Oh
as
yeah.
you
I
noted
love the
here,
amount of improvised weapons here.
yeah, yeah, like fire extinguisher, person, and like Taylor uses both of her new like real weapons, the knife and
Yeah, which is great. I love her
the
using the
asp.
baton.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah, so yeah, I'll
my
note
brain
I'll note
keeps
this
calling
bit
it the
you have
real thing.
highlighted.
Yeah, I think that this was great. Tattletale and Taylor have never been closer.
As they collide into one another.
And then, yeah, did you want to talk about this part? And then I'll talk about this back half of.
Oh yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, so and after she hucks Tattletale at Taylor, Glory Girl kind of continues to try and leverage her information and the larger structure of all this. And she starts threatening them to go to the birdcage and kind of starts giving a brief explanation like, oh, it's where we put the baddest dudes and they're so bad we don't even have wardens or anything. It's just a bunch of gangs of villainous scum. They'll eat you alive kind of stuff. And partially it's a threat, but it does give us a little bit of information about what the birdcage kind of is. Like we know more and more that there is just this nebulous, weird prison structure where there's a bunch of horrifyingly powerful people, just tucked out of sight.
Yeah. Um, and then let's see here. So we've talked about the birdcage in two previous chapters. In 2.2, they mentioned in like the news coverage that that's where Lung was most likely going to go after his trial by teleconference. And then in 3.6, so the van ride here to this very bank robbery, Lisa brings it up on the topic of cops and robbers to give it as an example of like um, some capes who are like murderers or whatever, like the bigger the crimes, the bigger the likelihood someone is to go straight to the birdcage. But if you've never killed anybody and you're just stealing stuff like Uber and Leet, you're pretty likely to just go to a regular like jail with extra
Yeah.
precautions rather than like super jail,
Right. Right.
because you're not going to jackknife your way out of there. Um,
No, hell no.
but to
Not in this
address
economy.
the chat that we've been behind a bit, for the
Okay.
other Panacea names, Megafire said at this point she becomes Panacea. And then we
Ayo.
got then she gets knocked out and becomes Unconsciouscia.
Okay,
And
that was a
then
little bit of a stretch.
yeah, that was from 2 + 4 × 5, and then Megafire said 4 out of 10. Um, what an
uh,
interesting view of justice, Glory Girl. M says she's
yeah,
trying to scare
very
them
much so.
straight. Yeah, this is a
Nothing about these two is straight,
oh my god.
including Tattletale's arm at the moment.
Oh my god. Um,
Brutal.
the birdcage is what all the other super prisons wish they could be. Yeah,
Oh my god.
it kind of is. Um,
Well, yeah, it kind of sounds like the ideal situation of like, oh, we don't even have to really pay attention to what's going on there.
one thing is, I
They'll
was
they'll
thinking
they'll
like
handle it.
it's. I would rather be. I would still rather be in the birdcage than in literal like the place from the show Super Jail. Um,
Oh my god, yes, the show Super Jail is the superest jail.
I would never want to be there. Like
Not in a
even though you
million
can
years.
escape, it's just like 99% of people like extra die.
Die horribly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um I don't even know how to describe it. It's like I guess ultra
Yeah, if you
violence is a good word for it,
yeah,
but like it's
yeah,
just
if you haven't
so
seen that show, it's
yeah.
senseless, horrible, brutal violence with a big wry smile on its face. It's a good time.
Um I only ever like I stopped watching after the first season, but I did like that.
Me too. It was
Anyway,
good.
uh Tattletale tells Taylor to bug it up. Bugs! Swarmer! She do it, and it don't do right. Glory Girl keeps making digs at them. You dumb, lol. Tattletale like, nah, dog, I ain't even dumb, cause like, you're not even invincible. And also, I have a gun which shoots bullets, of which one is coming right at you. It does. It does come at her. The bugs have an opening. Glory Girl bugs out. This was the after action report of what happened in this fight. Clearly,
I think I described it perfectly. I think I
line.
really touched on the
I
nuances.
actually, for a second, thought you had just copy pasted from the story, and I was like, we can't take a chunk this big.
Oh no no no! The copyright lawyers are gonna come right after us. But
No, but then I realized that
no.
this was your own brilliant work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm quite the journalist. Um.
I don't know if we want to
Yeah.
talk about that more or like if that was.
I mean that. Not to be glib or anything, but I think that does kind of sum it up pretty good. Taylor tries to, or Tattletale like is very breathy and like in pain, and is like, "Use your goddamn bugs." And Taylor's like, "What?" And she's like, "The bugs." So she does it. Basically, now that she's got her faculties back, is able to take the bugs that have been floating around the room and any of them who are just sitting idle and throws them at Glory Girl. Glory Girl is pretty much just like, okay, you fucking idiots. What are these dumb bugs gonna do? I have a force field. And then that's when Tattletale's like, "Nah, dog, I ain't even dumb, because like you're not invincible." And so she very intelligently moves to shoot Glory Girl with
She
the gun,
takes
and
one shot
one shot. You only got one shot in this case, and that
to get all the
basically
bugs you ever
takes.
wanted.
Okay, if you're gonna rap this whole song, please do it right
No,
now, because I
okay.
want to know where this goes.
No, I can't.
Um,
I thought of that line and I couldn't help myself.
you only got one bug. But yeah. So that shot takes down Glory Girl's shield, in which gives Taylor's bugs an opening to get in and start biting, and that really gets Glory Girl's goat, hence the bugging out. She's not having a super good time, and that's pretty much the moment when uh that gives them the opening for Tattletale and Taylor to bug out, in the other sense of just like, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Um, I think
Uh,
it's worth
Greg, the chapter
noting.
art will change here shortly.
I think it's worth noting that they do, like, they mention the sound of the gun, like Taylor having a problem with it and stuff. Just because
Mhm.
they're fucking loud. I think a lot of people, like, we're from Idaho.
Yep.
So we have fired some guns, and I think a lot of people
Mhm.
don't know
Mhm.
they're fucking loud. They're
They're
loud
super
as
fucking loud.
fuck.
Here, I'll read it how Taylor describes it real quick. The sound was deafening. You don't really get a sense for how intense gunfire is from TV and movies. As is, it was enough that it took me a few seconds to get a grip. Just a heartbeat later, I realized my bugs had broken through. So like, it's not like a debilitating kind of loud, but it's, if you're not expecting it, that kind of shock will fuck you up pretty badly.
Yeah. It's like the worst balloon pop of your life.
Yes, not a super fun time. Megafire 7 says, "Nah, people at shooting ranges are just wearing ear protection for show." I mean, okay, yes, I guess we're not saying anything revolutionary here in that guns are loud, but guns are fucking loud.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. So I think this is as good a time as any to move the chapter art, and then we'll
Yeah, let's do it. And then we'll kind of wrap up and or
well
I guess not wrap up. We'll lead
we'll
into the
describe
socket
what's
here.
happening here as so. Did we mention that Tattletale's arm is out of its socket?
We haven't quite mentioned that yet, but
Ah.
yes, due to the throw, Glory Girl dealt Tattletale. Her arm is now left out of its socket, and furthermore, Tattletale is also mentally exhausted at this point. All the commotion and mind reading or whatever leaves her pretty pooped.
I
And
think we should
this
bring
I know.
this stuff down to the powers knowledge section since we're so close to that anyway.
Oh, sure, yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
so
can
I'll
touch on that in
just
a little bit.
copy paste it there as well.
Yeah. And so basically, yeah, like everyone's exhausted. They do have a moment of reprieve. Uh, so Tattletale and Taylor bail. They are hurting pretty bad though, and let's go ahead and switch up that art.
Oh yeah. No, I switched it to the speed draw. So the speed draw has been going.
Oh,
That's why I
oh,
wanted
cool.
to
Okay.
skip along to the part that
Oh, got it. It's funny. I've had the stream paused on my iPad this entire time, and I didn't even realize it.
that's okay.
So I'm a little scamp. Um, cool. So, oh man, that art looks so good though. That art looks so good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
And
just
it's
gonna
it's
sit here and
great how
admire it
much
for a
the
moment.
beginning of the speed draw shows you, like, it's almost the exact groove from the like previous the chapter 1.5. Um
Right.
and yeah, now I'll move to the high def version. Um
Oh, it's looking
slightly
so
higher
good.
def. I really
Slightly
like
high
this
D.
image. Uh I mean, I of course appreciate the Amy one too, but I like all of Vic's art, but
Great.
this one is just like there's something about it. It's very compelling to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm gonna echo Megafire 7 here. You did some amazing stuff with the color in the background and in that darkness. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Um.
All right, let's keep on trucking.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are right here, right? With
Yep.
there's the meeting
Yeah.
with Gru, which we see here. All but Aegis and the Undersiders are out of the fight at this point. Let's scram, I said. You took on Glory Girl? You know, I'm skipping from line to
Yeah,
line
please.
just to say the good ones. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like when you watch Star Wars 3 just to watch the meme lines. Um, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, they meet up with Gru and they describe a little bit of what happened, but they're just like we gotta get out of here. And then Taylor's like, I don't think I can pop your arm back into the thing, so that when they meet Gru, then Tattletale's like, quickly, you
Get this arm back in there.
yeah,
Get it back in.
I think that you should say the way you had said there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Some of
So
David
I'll
notes are
just start.
bonkers.
Uh, yeah, Tattletale basically is like best be popping and locking though. Got to get this arm back in its home. And so he very quickly pops it back into its place, and to the dogs they go.
Yeah. Um, Regent wants to take all the stuff, like the alternator cannon and the hoverboard and stuff. But he actually, I don't think he tries to take the cannon. I think he tases the cannon right away, and he just tries to take the
Mm-hmm.
hoverboard. And then
Yeah.
they're like, um, it'll have trackers for sure. Like it's a Tinker device. And then Tattletale confirms, and then he's like, "Fuck!" And then, you know,
Yeah, it's a very mom and dad moment right there.
hmm. And you said here, Regent wants all the gadgets, tases all the equipment to the disappointment of only him, and then in parens, or all, and then in further parens from me, definitely all. Can you imagine him shittily floating around the rest of the book?
I would absolutely love it if his little kingly outfit just jamming around on a fucking hoverboard. That would be so good.
It's a dream. Um,
Literal dream.
and then we get to
Um,
this part where I'll let you take over, but the Doges.
yeah. Yeah. So as they're kind of jamming through on the dogs, Gru is leaving a trail of darkness, and as they continue to pass all these different alleys, is flooding each one with darkness. So basically, as they continue, the heroes are not sure which alley they went down. Where are they? And A just kind of flies up to to the sky to try and pinpoint them, but they are all traveling through the darkness. And there's a good line about, they get on the dogs, and it kind of becomes apparent like, oh yeah, even the dogs don't really know where they're going through the darkness. They're just leading by smell. And so Taylor kind of compares it to the blind leading the blind. Um, but as it becomes more and more clear that they're getting away, that they're not being followed, then Taylor starts to finally like let loose and really express her elation at the success. She's such a good bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
um
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't mind, I kind of want to read a little bit from the chapter
Oh
here.
yeah, yeah.
We'd done it. I'd done it. We escaped without killing anyone. The only one who'd really been hurt at all had been the wards, Glory Girl and Panacea. So that's a lot, several people, and that would be fixed when Panacea came too, for sure. Any property damage had largely been the fault of the wards and Glory Girl. Maybe made some enemies. I'd scared some innocent people, but I'd be lying to myself if I said that could have been avoided. In short, things couldn't have gone better. I think this is so funny. Like on one hand, it's like, yes, good on you, Taylor. Y'all did it. Nothing really that bad happened, except all the bad things that happened. But hey, not too bad, right? She does a lot of. I guess I'm kind of skipping some points here, but um, Taylor does a lot of rationalizing and minimizing here. I think if you had told her this is what she would have done like a week prior to this, she would have been like, no, 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 that ain't me. I would never do that stuff. I would never go up against the wards of the heroes or anything like that. But here she's like, I fucking nailed it. That was so good. I slam dunked that.
Yeah, that is how she's being.
Yeah, and like, and through all of this, as she's kind of having her internal gloating a little bit, or you could also say it's like a sigh of relief, but it shows that the Undersiders are pretty pretty damn experienced and like adept at these escapes. I think this plan is pretty brilliant, and it is successfully able to like ward off, what is it, like 7 people or something on the other
Yeah,
side.
and
Uh,
if we're like taking into account that there would be more heroes who join the thing in the last section when they're like
right.
leading the general like run around the city, there would be like the flyers would be there, would be, I guess not Kid Win anymore because his hoverboard's gone, but
Mm.
Aegis, um, Glory Girl possibly if she's able to like pull herself together. Um, uh, who else can fly? I guess there aren't that many flyers on the Brockton Bay team. I'm like thinking about it now and
Yeah,
realizing.
like Kidwin, Aegis, Glory Girl.
Um,
Um,
Laser Dream would be able to shield her. Lady Photon from New Wave. Oh my god. Sorry, something in real
uh,
life. Um, and okay, so I saw there was some chatting. So as to
yeah,
Alec
let's address that real quick.
on the hoverboard. Hands in his pockets as he goes around, says Megafire. And 2
Oh
plus 4
yeah.
times 5 follows with, oh my god, that would be so fitting for someone as lazy as Alec, Megafire. Taylor is such a good villain. You're absolutely right, Greg. Panacea can heal all the injuries, but not the emotional damage, Vic. No
Wow.
one got hurt, quotes. Nothing can heal
Big
Clock
winks.
Blocker. Then M
Yeah, no,
says,
no, absolutely not.
M says, Clock Blocker will wake up screaming about bugs in his ears for decades.
Oh my god.
Greg, Miss
Uh,
Militia unfortunately can't rocket jump.
actually, that would be way dope if she could though.
I'm thinking
We
of
should
other
send some
things they
notes.
could do to like look down and try and get good vantage points. Like, um, Arms Master could
Hmm.
get up on buildings with a combination of like motorcycle, then grappling hook, then grappling
Yeah, I
between
mean,
buildings.
Vista could get up as high as she theoretically wants, I assume.
Yeah, and like battery and assault and velocity can all move fast enough to go to buildings and then like climb them really fast and like move from building to building. And so they could look down. But the reason this plan is still so good is because they cover such a large area with Gru's power. Because, like, think how fast the
Hmm.
dogs are, and if it's taking like 20 to 30 minutes to have the darkness clear, then they must cover like
Right.
a huge area. And then after they're done with their like initial wave, they basically just double back into several different positions and then like go into their civilian clothes and normal Doge states. And like
Yeah.
it's just like how would you even catch them? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and they don't really talk about it directly too much, especially in these chapters, but like they, until this point when they are using the cover of the darkness to change into their civilian clothes and all that, you don't really realize that there's like civilians around. There are pedestrians just kind of out and about doing their thing. Presumably they're covering a like a decently large distance
Yeah,
in
I
this.
I think that they leave the area in which the has been cordoned off for the fight by the authorities.
Yeah,
Probably just
yeah.
based on what's said.
Right. But it's just interesting because like yeah, you see presumably a bunch of random civilians are just being covered in this darkness and like kind of probably seeing how it's happening to some degree, but likely just being too scared or whatever to want to get mixed up in any of that.
Yeah,
Um
and I mean the other thing
yeah.
is that what you call it how to say the the way the bank robbery is covered in the news in like arc 4, like a big portion of what they talk about in the news is just the traffic problems caused by the Cape fight.
Right, right. Well, like the minor inconveniences of it all.
Yeah, because it's well, because for downtown they had to shut down downtown for as long as Gru's Darkness was up. So It was like the entire length
A
of the
good
fight
half
plus
hour.
like 30
Yeah.
minutes in the middle of the middle of the morning because they were attacking at
Right.
11. So yeah, like 11 to 11:30, just all of downtown is shut down essentially.
Which, I mean, would impact the larger community quite a bit.
Yeah. It's like something that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you're thinking of a superhero story, like a Spider-Man versus Dr. Octavius sort of battle. You're like, oh, I
Right.
guess that also there's weird, like, negative effects on just the fact that everyone's time was wasted.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because obviously, like you see in situations like that, oh, a bunch of people are stuck in their cars on the highway or on some bridge or whatever. But also, all of those people are having to call into work. People are not making their appointments, like fucking babysitters running late. You know, and there's a lot of collateral damage.
I'm gonna tell you, Vic, why I brought up Doctor Octopus, and it's um, because I thought of the first scene that came to mind, and it was Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire being
Yep.
like,
Mm.
"Whoa!" and then like Alfred Molina with the spider legs throwing that well, it's not concrete, the brick chunk of building at him, and it's just like
Oh
that's so
yeah,
iconic. So that's what I thought of
classic.
in my head when I was thinking of just what is a non-worm super fight downtown that really disrupts something for a dumbass reason.
Well, and like every Avengers film, they kind of just show the whole downtown like just being absolutely wrecked. But they, they use civilians as fodder in those cases.
Yeah, I mean, thinking of like the everything gets destroyed. That later in that movie, they have that train scene where he has to pull all the pieces off those buildings to save the people on the train. You know,
Right.
it's nuts.
Yeah.
God, I can't go down a rabbit
Crazy.
hole. That's a good movie.
Nope.
Everybody always tells me like
We'll
which
do a
movies are
separate
good, and
stream
it's
about
like
that movie.
that's an actual good movie.
It's a great one. I love that one so much.
um, let's see
All right.
here.
All right.
And it's not even my favorite Spider-Man movie. It's my second favorite. Into the Spider-Verse, obviously. Um,
Damn right.
Covered by
Uh,
Darkness. No, I think we're a little lower
uh,
than that. I think we're just down
well,
to
there,
this part, right?
there's one bit we didn't really mention regarding the darkness
Oh yeah.
stuff. So them kind of departing happens on a few different waves. First, Tattletale and Taylor are dropped off with one of the dogs, who is then changed back to normal. Presumably, then Regent gets dropped off next, and then Gru and Bitch head to a storage locker by the docks to hide their score for their boss to pick up later.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then they kind of then they blend into the crowd.
Mhm. Yeah. And so I'm not sure where they dropped Regent. I guess just a
In
third location.
another alley or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so.
Just a normal guy with a Rottweiler.
Yeah, that's kind of his
He
jam.
just doesn't even change
uh
out of his costume. He just takes the mask off and he's like, I love Ren Fairs.
I wish that was more his vibe at all. I wish, yeah, like his identity came more from a place of being a huge nerd and not more because he's like a garbage can human.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Right into a
Um,
dumpster, says Vic. And then 2 plus 4
yep.
times 5 shares the opinion that Spider Verse is the best Spider Man.
No one could blame me for that because that movie
Garbage
rocks.
can. Vic didn't like your description of Alec.
I mean,
Oops.
only in the way that he's a problematic fave. I love him to death, and especially in this story. But I mean,
Dropped him off.
I think we can all agree that he's maybe not the nicest boy. He ain't. I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater. I would never suggest that. But I just can't say that I
Did you hear
agree
the
with
joy
many of
in
his
his
personal
voice
choices.
when we talked about Alec having to float around the rest of the book? I mean,
See, yeah.
clearly he likes Alec.
I love him. He's such a fun time, but I'm not going to stand by and say that I condone that behavior.
I'm not a stan, if you will.
Yeah, I'm not a stan, if you will.
M uh M is correct. He was dropped off at a local con to buy anime figures. That's how you correct it. And then he's a
There
nerd
we go.
and not
See, there we go.
not
Now
doing
I
the
feel.
bad things.
Yep. 2 plus 4 times 5 says, at least Alec isn't a garbage can't. And I have to fully agree with that. Because, I mean, for the sake of our heroes here, we definitely need a garbage can, not a garbage cans.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? There are gonna be some Alec apologists. I'm not gonna apologize for well, I'm not gonna apologist for his past actions.
No,
We'll
God,
we'll, we'll
no.
let Vic do that. It'll
Yeah, she can do the heavy lifting there.
yeah.
You don't even know.
Yeah.
um,
Vic, I need to dial it back before I get canceled. uh
um, all right, let's jump to
yeah.
this last line here. And so basically, after Taylor and Tattletale are dropped off, they've successfully changed. They're blending into the crowd with some umbrellas. Um, in a low voice, Taylor says to Tattletale, "Everyone came out of this unscathed." Tattletale confirms that no injuries or death for us, for the heroes or the bystanders. And then Taylor says, "Then it's a good day." And Tattletale says, "A very good day." Uh, so yeah, I mean, basically, at least despite sort of, oh shit, at least despite sort of Taylor's like moving the goalposts of her morality a bit throughout this, her primary objective does, she is still concerned at the end of it all, like no one got hurt. Like that is a big thing for her. She made a specific point of showing concern for the citizens and bystanders and all that. Though, I mean, she's
Double
being a bit,
standard. Yeah, because she doesn't
yeah,
care about the extreme psychic damage she dealt the clock blocker.
right. She kind of shoes that off. And I mean, furthermore, just like a bunch of people being under threat by a supervillains may not be like, even if they weren't physically harmed,
They'll
that's still
have
kind of a traumatizing experience.
bug-based PTSD.
Yeah, which is not at all what you want. Not even kind of. I mean, if you have to choose your PTSD, please don't let it be bug based.
Mm-hmm. If you're choosing.
If you have to choose, arm tied behind your back, like you got to choose. Not bug.
Jumping over to the chat, since we're like kind of done with the chapter and gonna move on to characters in a sec. I think.
Yeah. So yeah, the chapter basically just ends with Taylor and Tattletale kind of walking into the distance, posing as two girls who just finished their shopping, walking
And
a dog.
in the words of M just earlier, two girls, one umbrella. Um,
Two girls, one umbrella.
um, but Megafire had said, I always fully approve of and endorse the actions of any and all of my favorite characters. 2 plus 4 times 5. Alex, one of their top 10 favorite. So we got a lot of Alec love in the audience, I think.
Yeah, which I fully get, but I'm just never gonna pretend he's like a good guy.
No, yeah, I mean he's a real worm. Um,
Ew.
Vic says in air quotes around both unscathed and no injuries for the heroes. Uh,
Not a one.
Megafire says also Aegis being treated as a dog toy. Sure, he can heal, but that can't be fun.
Hell no.
PBSD.
Post bug stressed disorder.
Exactly. Traumatizes you, and everything turned out okay. I'm totally right.
Yeah, absolutely. Taylor is, I don't know, definitely shows some sociopathic tendencies here.
Um, yeah. Oh, just a second. Can you talk a little bit about this? I gotta answer someone real quick.
Oh, sure. So yeah, we've kind of ended on the chapter, so we are going to dip into the character sections. And I guess we'll just go ahead and start. You know what? We have her written lower, but I want to start with Taylor. Um, Taylor, a big part of this is like obviously her getting her first experience with this particular brand of superhero fighting. And she takes on the persona of a total fucking Madison, which we did mention, but it just shows like how she's leveraging her own, while we're on the note of it, like her own trauma, her own experience. She's taking all of the bad she has dealt with and turning it into someone else's bad in this case. And even furthermore, she kind of pivots on some of her normal tendencies and really takes a stand for herself here, which is awesome because in like she does so as well in her previous altercations with Rachel and prior to that with
Mm-hmm.
Lung, but
Yeah.
in her regular life she is much more of like a subservient character. Like she's really just trying to stay unnoticed, stay out of the way, not cause problems, not have problems caused to her. But here, I think largely because she gets to really let loose, she gets to use her powers in a public setting, she gets to kind of do things that are straight up exhilarating. She starts to feel empowered and lets loose with her bugs and all that.
And the fact that she goes
So
from a really low low to a high when she like stops
yes,
feeling pain because she was like able to get herself to deal when it was really bad, and then after that it kind of just all goes on the upswing for them. Like I know that she gets tattletale thrown into
hmm
her and that's gotta hurt, but like generally things all like improve
and
from
it
the
worked
moment,
out.
yeah, from the moment they switch back and stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah. Do you want to dive into the next one?
Yeah, were we gonna
Or
do
I mean, I
Glory
guess
Girl next or?
before we can before we blow through it, is there anything else Taylor wise we really want to know here?
Um, well, I think for Taylor, like, there's just like there's so much going on, but it's also the all the stuff that we talked about because she's the POV. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've heard us going on about it, but it's you know I think it's just important to note like Taylor's showing a lot of growth and like she's able to roll with the punches, some literal, some metaphorical. Like she's very agile, very adept in these kinds of confrontations. And for having never dealt with something quite so dramatic, it's really impressive to see how she handles herself.
yeah, I mean, I think she does great. Vale's not here this week, but Vale was saying in a previous week that essentially, like, they all do amazingly, and like Taylor performs like essentially perfectly. They're
Mm,
almost all like flawless. They're just like going around the battlefield being maximally effective. They're always essentially fighting the right targets or changing the situation so they're fighting the right targets. They're not
right,
letting the enemy set the pace at all. They're dominating like the space of the battlefield, despite the fact that the others have vista. Like they
right.
do everything right from like the point
Absolutely.
when they know their opposition.
Yeah, everyone, I mean, and this isn't just about Taylor, but yeah, like everyone fulfills their role so well here. Like they work as a pretty like I don't know, what do you call it? Like a well-oiled machine, I guess. For given the fact that this it really is their first outing as a unit. Taylor plugs herself into the larger whole of that team pretty damn seamlessly.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I mean, yeah. Other than like the Madison stuff.
The
My
Madison of it all.
my just insults thrown because I love Taylor, but I also love insulting Taylor in these moments.
She needs to be knocked down a couple pegs every now and again.
She's doing bad stuff, you know. Sometimes you do
You know,
bad stuff.
right? Well, and I guess if we can kind of pull back a little bit,
Hmm.
her whole these chapters last time I was on this, we talked about like what was the point in the story that got me really hooked, and it's super this arc, and like this fight in particular is a
I've
big
heard that
part
a
of that.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like because we get to see Taylor like not only demonstrating what her powers can really do, how they can be used in within a fight, but as for her character, like this is a big moment for her, especially like the elation immediately following, like this is an important point in the story because, you know, I know she has her sort of subterfuge plan, and she still has the intentions of like going to Arms Master with this information, or what have you, despite him being a total piece of shit. Um, you know, you can see her getting a taste of what it's like to succeed and to fit in and to be effective. Like it's all very important stuff for her character, and how kind of this influences the story moving forward.
Yeah, and I feel like in our audience, like M just spoke up and said, "Yeah, this is definitely the part that's getting me the most interested in the story." Like it's a really catching moment, and Quinn, who has of course been on a previous episode and who's going to be on future episodes as well, he just like this is the point when he was like, "Okay, I might start reading ahead," because like he wanted to know
Right.
more, and like when that chapter ended, 3.8, I think it was, like 2 weeks ago when Em was there. Em was like, "What?
Mhm.
No more?" And it's just like, yeah, that's it for this week. Um,
Yeah, cutting off at the chapters prior to like this episode, like that would be hard for me to stop myself if I were to just like get through 3.10 and be like, okay, I'm good for a while. Like I no, I would need closure on this situation.
yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, but like when I was reading Ward as it came out, it's like every week, like what I was thinking about was the chapters that were like coming out that week, and
Yeah.
like I was
Hmm.
reading them, and sometimes I wouldn't read them right away, like I'd save them so I could read it like throughout the day, the next day or whatever, and like just
Hmm.
so much, but I was like always thinking about it, and like just because you can't go further. Whereas with
Oh yeah.
this, you
Oh
can
yeah.
always cheat and read the whole book now. But when you're reading it as it's coming out, that like I don't know, it just dominates your brain. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very addictive story, especially when they give it to you in these very small chunks. You're like, "No, I need more."
yeah. Well, the war chapters are much longer than this too, though.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. When we're talking Ward, I did pace myself a lot more with that one.
hmm. I wanted to address the bits that I skipped in the chat. So Megafire was like, as Taylor, "I'm gonna be hero," she says while horribly traumatizing Clock Blocker. "I'm a good person who does good things." Um, 2 plus 4 times 5 says, "Arc 1 was interesting. Arc 2 was when I got hooked, specifically when Brian said he put misleading info on his wiki page. And yet, Arc
Yeah,
3 was when I fell in love with the story." M says, "Criminal Tom."
wholehearted agree.
Yeah. Um, I was really really down in for it like early, to be honest, because that
Hmm.
thing about like the spider webbing in the costume, like
Right.
for me, I had known, like, I had written a paper about, like, the spider goats and stuff, those genetically engineered goats who have
Yeah,
spider
yeah.
silk and stuff. So I was, like, obsessed with that in that, like, when I was a tween, because that's when I wrote that paper, and I just thought it was the coolest shit. And then when it was part of this story, I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah. Well, and it shows, it kind of shows an early sign of like a layer of complexity you might not necessarily expect out of something like this.
Yeah, and even though it's not, like, realistic, it, like, uses real world stuff to ground it and make it feel realistic, even though it's totally
Hmm.
not realistic.
Right, right.
But,
Not
like,
even kind of, but it gives you a
yeah.
relative example within this universe. Like, that's the kind of shit you can expect, and it only gets crazier from here.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Very
and
good,
then
very good.
moving down here, M said the criminal tomfoolery is a guaranteed hook for me. Megafire
Yeah.
said, "Mhm. Go on."
Oh no, I was
So,
just agreement.
oh, just
Love me some
agreement.
criminal tomfoolery.
Oh yeah, yeah. Megafire was saying, for me it was the next arc, so that's going to be exciting. I still have that I still have that with Pale, and yeah, the chunks have gotten considerably larger. Yeah,
Mm.
I haven't been reading Pale as it has come out.
Yeah, I
I
haven't
read
touched
the
any of Pale
very
yet.
I read the arc 1 of Pale when it was first starting. Greg wanted to do a book club, and I was just like not good at keeping up with it and like putting my thoughts in order like as it was happening, and like
Yeah.
I'm really bad at predicting stuff, I think. Like normally in media,
Hmm.
I'm really good at it, and like in Ward, I had like a really good sense for when things were gonna happen, and like I had a really good feeling for like the parahumans universe. But when Greg was like, what are the themes of these really complicated things that are happening, my brain was just like, white noise, just like
Yeah.
like I
I
just
think
couldn't think of
especially
anything.
yeah, and certain texts, and I'll say this is one for me that like reading it the second time because I've listened to Worm all the way through twice now, and I'm on my third go as we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Doing this is helping me understand the story like so much more because I'm very much a I just need to soak it in. I can't try and make any sense of it until later, and now we're at that point where I can
Yeah,
finally
I definitely needed
break
that
things apart a
first
little bit.
fast read through to like that's like the story invest, and that's like all the like actual plot points and all the like emotional highs and lows of like the surface level story, and you can kind of pick up on some of the like background stuff going on, and like
Yeah.
obviously I liked it for like the reasons of like they live in a material reality with like a history to it where people actually
Hmm.
live, like kind of thing. Like I love that.
Yeah.
But then like being able to
Feels grounded.
actually, yeah, being able to actually like put my finger on that and like think about that was more of a like when I was listening to We've Got Worm for the first time, then I kind of like thought of the story differently. Not only knowing more because
Hmm.
of like the book itself, but like being able to step outside Taylor's perspective a bit because I was very easily swept up into just like totally being on the same page as Taylor, even though she's like
Yeah.
bonkers.
No, totally agreed. Like especially in my first listen through, and now like I don't like with Ward specifically. Ward's just really dense, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all. But it's a lot to take in, even with the history and context of Worm. There's so much going on in that book or that story that you really have to unpack, and so I've actually started listening to We've Got Ward to kind of help me wrap my head around some of what's going on
And it's
there,
a
but I
way
had
deeper
not listened.
dive.
It super is, and I haven't really touched anything with We've Got Worms, so maybe I'll add that
I
into my
would
podcatcher.
I would probably what I would do is just stop We've Got Word where you're at, start We've Got Worm, because then you're like then you'll get the backfill of the entire journey of like the knowledge they have and like their understanding of the story, and
Yeah,
then
that would
like
probably help a lot.
there's a lot of terminology they use to describe stuff that
Mhm.
they kind of develop over the course of the cast. And it's not like super, super long because it's arc based and not chapter based for Worm.
Right.
And then, but like, We've Got Ward, I think, like, literally is a better program because they're just more experienced, then they are breaking it down more. They changed the formatting at one point, and it's like
Hmm.
kind of far in, but like it still ends up being like more than half of all the episodes or something, where they've
Oh wow.
switched from the audience participation stuff at the beginning to they like floop that to the end, which is what I do it at the end because I realize like kind of getting into the meat of everything first and then doing the participation at the end is, I mean, I think that's a good way to do it.
It's pretty effective. Yeah.
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 So, it's and yeah, they just keep improving on the program. It's really good.
Hmm.
And they did there's some really great stuff like an interview with Wildbow at the end of Ward and stuff.
Ooh, I would love to listen to that. Yeah.
So yeah, tons of great stuff.
That's great.
It's another companion piece. If you don't want to listen to my show,
Hey, come on with all that. Listen to both.
and Megafire has a lot of good like audience participation things with that podcast. So that's it's pretty cool. Oh, and jumping over to the chat for a second. Um, 2 plus 4 times 5 said, I had been told by a reliable source that I was going to love Worm. I just didn't expect to love it nearly as much as I do. That is exactly me, and with Greg telling me to read it, and I didn't expect that I would fall so in love with it.
That's me with William telling me to read it. So I did not expect I was gonna get so into it.
Yeah, Greg made me listen to it on a road trip from Idaho to Seattle, and the during the trip we were at an anime convention at SakuraCon, and we
Hmm.
spent a lot of time still just in the room listening to it because I was just obsessed. And then
What road trip did you and I listen to it on?
well, it wasn't a road trip. I was gonna say, like, the funny thing of like the speed up and speed up is that like I drove you to the airport and you kind of
Oh,
listened to
right.
it on a really low thing in the Denny's we were in before you got to the actual main airport.
I
So you
forgot about
kind of
that.
listened to like half of Arc One and you're already like, all right, I'm in.
Yep. I'm pretty easily swayed, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, well, I thought it would be so hard to just tell you about it and like that it was so unlikely that you'd listen to it in that way, but that it would be so much more likely if we just listened to even a small portion of it.
Yeah.
So
You slam dunk.
it worked, yeah. And I've gotten
You
a
got
lot
me.
of people to read this book. So I'm pretty good.
So when you getting those residuals?
Yeah, one of my coworkers made a joke about that. He's like, "Do you get paid every time the?" Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'll
But
I'll approach that.
the thing about this is, and that I love talking about so much, is that this is actually like one of the things I love about Worm and Ward and like all of the surrounding media is it's free media. This is free media
Oh
too.
yeah.
Um,
Love it.
because free media is not influenced by like whatever sponsor they have to please, because they don't. There is no, pissing off a company by being anti-capitalist, which this
We're
book
putting the means
certainly
of
is.
production. We're putting the means of production in the hands of the people with this show alone.
I feel like that's what Wildbow does by like giving people complete like he's never cracked down on anybody for doing like an audiobook or like a fan fiction or anything like that. I mean, it feels pretty open season, like as long
Actually,
as,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it seems like everybody's engaging with it for the most part in good faith too. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure there's gonna be like shitty people at some point,
In any endeavor, yeah. I mean, that's bound to happen, but
but yeah, it,
but
it
it's been pretty good so far.
yeah, and it takes a lot of effort to read, so maybe that's like a barrier to entry. If somebody's just like there to cause a problem and like nothing else, then it would
You'd
take
have
them
to be
way too.
really committed to Havoc, if you were going to bother with something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, definitely. Oh crap! We didn't even get to the bottom of the chat stack
Oh
from
God,
before.
we're not even. We only got through one character. Let's do this.
Okay, but just to
uh,
semi
oh yeah, if you
catch
want
up
to
on
hit the
these
chat first, real quick,
people
yeah.
while you're focusing on that. Greg says didn't help that you hadn't read Pact. There's a lot you can know coming. Yeah, Pale I think would really help having read Pact first. I know they don't need it,
Mm.
but like it seemed like it would be helpful.
I'll keep that in mind if I ever start that one.
Yeah, and then Megafire says, yeah, especially for M, this may be hard to understand given the environment in which you're reading it, but you would not believe how pro Taylor I was after my first read. Um,
So in
so
that
pro
vein,
Taylor, like just
yeah.
ridiculously. And then 2 plus 4 times 5 says, I listened to We've Got Worm after every arc, and my first read through it helped me pace myself. That's a good point. I think that that's a decent way to read it because like they're a good companion piece, and I listened to We've Got Ward every week as it was coming out. So like I essentially did the same thing where like my opinions didn't fully track with theirs, especially with some of the main characters who I was less worried about in Ward, which is a very paranoid book. Um,
Very
but
much so.
yeah, like just listening along with them was like a great way in my case not to pace myself because I already had to pace myself, but to get more out of the content and to never like lose the drive to keep reading week to week, I guess either.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Greg says, I think that's not universal unless you're spending a bunch of time dwelling on exactly what's happening. It's easy to slide into Taylor's mindset. Megafire says, especially by the time of Ward. Yeah, by the end of the book, you're just like, been reading Taylor for so long. Like, most people just love her. Like, I love her.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I love her.
um, 2 plus 4 times 5 saying, I convinced somebody to start Worm yesterday, and he mentioned how he's read fanfic for like 12 years and pointed out that free online fiction is almost always a passion project. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, very true.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Free media, I think, is really important in society because, if you haven't noticed, I have some pretty strong beliefs about our society being run poorly. Um, so
I concur.
yes. But let's get back to that character stack.
All right. You want to take us away with Glory Girl?
Yes. So Glory Girl, my favorite character. Maybe not as Glory Girl, but Victoria Dallin, my favorite character. Um, uh, in this section, she does not come off great. She comes off as kind of a real asshole.
Yeah, kind of a real asshole.
I'm being handed a phone to look at something.
Well, I'll pick it up. Yeah, a big part of what Glory Girl is doing here is obviously like leveraging power, trying to basically, I don't know, up her positioning in this fight, and she threatens a lot of violence that falls outside of the typical cops and robbers version of the game. And she does acknowledge sort of the game aspect of it all, um, which
Yeah,
I thought was
she
very
she
interesting.
says like she's gonna hurt them as bad as she can get away with or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And she's, she also very much is like, I'm gonna pull strings to do this and this and this. And it's kind of, she's saying like,
Mm-hmm.
I may not be able to totally destroy you here and now in the way that I want to, but I will make this hurt.
But this is also a reminder that she's not just like a dumb brute. She's like someone who can be calculating and be like, I'm going to use like local political pressure to like fuck you
Yep.
over. So, yep.
Hmm.
Since we gotta speed it along, I won't talk about how she's the best character all day and how much I love Ward. We'll just go to Panacea.
All
Amy
right.
Dallin.
Panacea. Hmm.
So she's using her power in a less direct fashion. She kind of has this, like a, mm, how to say, um, she's she's not used to fights. I don't think she's ever been in a real fight, but before this,
Yeah.
she's like healed people, I think, in fights, but she's never attacked anyone with her power. She's never done like a feedback loop trick. Um,
Yeah, yeah. And like this, it's a really roundabout way of using the powers, and like how she, again, falling in line with the themes, like changes the power dynamics just by simply fucking with some bugs, which is great. I mean, it shows like she must have some deep understanding of biology and a pretty good insight as to how Taylor's powers are potentially working. Um, and yeah, like you were kind of getting at that, this is probably the first instance where she's really using her power in an offensive way rather than a defensive way, or reactionarily. Um, oh, okay. By the way, Mega Fire 7. It's getting late here, so I'm off to bed. Good show, you guys. Oh, thank you so very much, and
Thank you.
sleep tight, sweet dreams. Thank you for being here.
Bye bye. See you next
Bye.
time. Um. So.
Um, But and before,
Yeah.
sorry to cut you off. Before we move past Panacea, I think we're also getting a nice peek into what like an emotionally troubled hero can look like. She clearly has stuff she doesn't want to talk about. She's clearly trying to be, especially because they reference like she's been trying to stay out of the media and more keep like a lower profile. Um, I think it just kind of shows how even on a team of heroes whose whole jam is honesty and transparency and all of that, that might all be kind of a bunch of BS.
Yeah. I don't think she really believes in new wave in the same way that like I think Victoria really believes in new wave and Amy just like fully
Hmm.
doesn't, and she's willing to like say the lines sometimes, but like she's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
not invested at
I think
all,
you're
doesn't,
probably right about that.
only there because of Victoria.
Right, right. And kind of probably the even beyond Victoria, like the external pressures of her family and sort of a
Hmm.
feeling of obligation due to her power and stuff like that.
Yeah. Um do you mind if we hop along here?
Yeah. Let's keep moving.
So, Gru and Tattletale, as you had pointed out, play dual leaders. You had said two kings for sure. Um, Gru plays the lead on the ground and in the midst of a fight, and Tattletale is the tactical lead, working in the background. And they seem to be like equally important, but the only main important people when planning the bank robbery initially as well. Like,
Hmm.
you know, Taylor's there and makes like contributions, but like those two are running the show.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah. And Tattletale having such like a deep understanding of the powers on her team, I'm sure she does, is probably able to like direct them in the right and point them in the right direction, while Gru would be great at like execution and really seeing that through.
yeah, I agree. Uh, is there anything else you wanted to talk about in the overall characters
Probably.
zone?
Um, I mean, I think we really. Oh, I guess we kind of skipped over just Tattletale on her own here, but we
Oh
got a
yeah.
lot of new information about Tattletale in this chapter, specifically with how she's leveraging her power, how she's gathering information, utilizing that information, utilizing subterfuge and sort of this very like sneaky sort of methodology to what she's trying to accomplish. Nothing with her is direct, not even kind of. She's always sort of leading you down the road she wants you to walk with lots of confidence, great villainous banter. um it's this is the beginning of, while I find her a little bit cringy sometimes, I fucking love Tattletale.
Yeah, I love Tattletale. She's in my top three for sure. It's
Oh,
Victoria,
absolutely.
Tattletale, and Taylor. I just love them all so much.
So goddamn much, so
So like
goddamn
this scene
much.
is just like a treat for me, even though I do think that that Victoria as Glory Girl is like the most cringe person. Um,
Yes,
like I still
yeah,
love it
very much.
despite the
Still
cringe.
here for it. Still here for
Yeah.
it. And yeah, I mean, I think those are all the major players in this chapter. There's lots to say, but I think we said we've kind of dove into a lot of that stuff. Um, if you're cool with it, want to move on to powers, knowledge, and world building.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this thing that we had moved down here and then hit any high
Hmm.
points that we had forgot and then jump onto the audience participation. I
Yeah.
have to finish by the hour, I guess.
Oh, all good, all good. Oh, okay. So
So I have like a
by
hard out, yeah.
got it. Okay. So let's keep blasting through it.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh different people are affected different ways by their power. Like the way that Tattletale acts is so like influenced by the fact that she's constantly receiving a stream of information. Later in the story, we'll see how her power like actually feeds info to her, but it just like completely dominates her mind space. Um,
yeah.
and like Taylor's power really doesn't at this point in her life. It kind of will later, but just in a totally different way. Like it's always under her
Hmm.
control, whereas
Right.
Tattletale's really isn't. It's like intrusive thoughts, basically. Um,
Yeah,
it,
and like a big thing is with that is like how Tattletale's power like physically exhausts her to quite an extreme. Like at the end of just this real, I mean, she's been using her power since probably since they stepped out of the van or whatever to get all this shit rolling. But the biggest part that really gets her is like using it directly on people rather than situations, from what I gather.
yeah,
And so like she feels totally exhausted, beat, I mean, not just from the physical pain, but from just even pushing her power to that limit. Whereas Taylor, she had the pain from the feedback bugs, but as far as like the giving her bugs commands and getting information from them, that doesn't really just seem to take any kind of mental toll on her by any means, or a physical toll really. She kind of just, it just is it
she has an endless
feels a lot
well of
more just like
energy,
a,
basically, for her power.
right, yeah, just like another sense. Like you don't get tired from smelling something, a lot of times. Like I feel like it's more like that for her versus a direct effort on her part.
Right. Yeah. And another thing is that Taylor Taylor essentially has like, oh, you know, she loses a little bit of control because of Amy, but normally she has essentially perfect control over her bugs. And
Right.
Tattletale has almost no control over her power. Like she can
Right.
kind of shut off the faucet a little bit,
Yeah.
but like she's mostly deciding to like amp it up more rather than like do that, and she's
Right.
always tempted to use her power in almost every situation. Like if she's having a conversation with Taylor, because to Tattletale, like not to give too much away about people's motives, but to Tattletale, because of like the kind of like relationship she wants to have with Taylor, where she's helping her as like kind of a sibling figure. Um,
Yeah.
it's it's like so important for her to not mess up when talking to Taylor. Like it's
Oh,
so
absolutely.
important. So like, does she spend her like limited like thought power on her conversation in the van, even though she knows things could get bad in the bank robbery? She's probably, even if she didn't, tempted to on like an emotional level, because to her, like keeping Taylor on board is like
The utmost
utmost
importance there.
importance. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I really like just especially continuing the comparisons between them, and we kind of briefly noted this, but it's like it and it actually makes me want to watch that thing about how all of the different characters are representative of various powers and stuff, but like the
yeah. That's
classification stuff with
spoilerific
Thinker,
as hell though. So
yeah,
probably any new
yes,
listeners, new readers
don't.
don't watch it because like it'll talk about the whole story. Um,
Yeah, so okay, good to note that. But I mean, just to touch on it lightly, is like the differences between like the thinker and the master classifications, like how we had a brief conversation yesterday about this,
mhm.
but like how how do their powers interact with them directly? And it definitely seems that in most cases, thinkers are physically exhausted by the use of their power. It does take some kind of toll on them, whereas
Yeah.
masters like Rachel, or Taylor, for example, aren't that doesn't seem to be of concern for them. It's not a resource in the same way.
Yeah, and it is conditional in some ways because for Rachel, for example, if she's using her power slowly over time, it doesn't wear her out, but if she
Mhm.
does like a huge boost all at once, it does wear her out. And I think
Yeah.
that's sort of a thing is that like she can still be conditionally exhausted by her power, but it like she has a way around that, and most thinkers just like don't essentially.
Yeah.
And then there are some people like Regent who, if he uses his power, and like it's hard for me to tell the exact conditions for him to get like a reflected thing where it like bounces back on him, but I think it's if too many targets are happening at once, or if like the control is too. I think it might have to do with like not being familiar enough with their nervous
Yeah.
system yet and still trying to
Hmm.
do it, and then like kind of it's like jamming a finger.
Right, kind of trying to like brute force the effect versus like able to like more gracefully make it a more kind of a ramp up, a more
Yeah,
gradual shift.
and then once his power bounces back on him, it's like a pretty hard limit. He just can't like continue using his power at that point,
Oh
and like
yeah.
that's so for him that's a totally different like style than either Rachel or Taylor, despite all three of them being
Right.
masters. But I still think in the general sense, like his power, if he's smart about it and he doesn't like get forced to use it on a bunch of people, because like that does happen in the
Hmm.
story and it makes total
Yep.
sense for him to do it. um, if he's not in a situation like that, he can endlessly use his power. And
Oh
if
yeah, yeah. Like what he's
yeah,
doing to to Kid Win. I mean, it's just dismantling the poor guy with small movements.
yeah, exactly. And then for thinkers, I can only think of a few total who like don't have any thinker downside in terms of like headaches and stuff. But they have other downsides like major blind spots in the way they think. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's a whole thing. Everybody's got
Yeah.
their problems, and they're all pretty bad.
Yeah. All pretty bad.
Like I can't think of one group that it's like really better or worse for. It's just different.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, just varying levels of debilitating.
And we can see that even within the classifications, there's like clearly like such a wide range because like
A lot of overlap between them too. It's really just like the root sort of intention of the power oftentimes.
yeah, and I know that the classification system is just made up like even in universe by like the PRT, but I like that it
Yeah.
works to like they've tried to refine it to match to like the types of personalities that cause these powers, and that like
Yeah.
that as a thing was intentional by Wildbow as well.
Right.
That the
Right.
like if you have brute power, you're most likely to have this type of personality because that's what kind of mindset allows you to unlock those powers.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Very
so
interesting.
since we have to sort of speed through this last section, I want to get to the audience
Yeah.
participation. Don't want to miss
Yeah.
anyone's answers. So, okay. The questions were for readers who don't know what the secret being discussed in chapter 3.12 is, what is the secret? If you already know, then which of the three doggos is best? Victoria says, Angelica, no further explanation needed. 2 plus 4 times 5 says Brutus. Sigma Jargon says, not sure who best doggo is, but Hookwolf is definitely worst doggo. Um,
Kind of a non-answer, Sigma, but I agree.
And then Megafire says, I refuse to put any of the three main dogs before the others.
Wow. Wow. Getting
Such
we're seeing
loyalty.
a moral stance. Yeah. Impressive.
You
Um
said you had an answer for this.
well, I mean, unfortunately, I do know the secret. I do we have anyone listening who doesn't know the secret?
M
Because I would
doesn't know
very
the
much love to
secret,
hear
but
their.
I'm not sure that M has either is still here or has an answer per se.
Okay, well,
But
Em, if you happen to still be here, I'd love to hear. I'd love to see your answer to that. But as far as which of the three doggos is best, I 100% agree with Vic's answer of it is definitely Angelica, and I almost want to agree. No further explanation needed. But to give you the explanation, it's fucking Angelica. Obviously, obviously, that's the best one. It is hard to pit all the dogs.
well, it's
Uh,
also funny because the Brutus and Judas are two of the three names, and I literally don't remember
right,
the third that are like the things from fucking Dante's Inferno, where it's Brutus, Judas, and
right.
the third one, and
The
and,
third,
and here they're
and
just like
the other one.
here they're just like, it's Angelica.
Well, and I love the interaction of Taylor's like, oh, why'd you name her Angelica? Like, what is that? And she's just like, I didn't fucking name her. God.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, agreed that Angelica is MVP. Although not really. I mean, I think I think I told you this. I don't when I was listening to these chapters initially, I was using Spotify to listen and it kept in my queue, it kept going to a later interlude chapter that is very much from the POV of one of the dogs and I won't get into it very much, but it kind of kept throwing me from like this really cool interaction, this really cool fight, over into the head of this very morose dog. It was just very like, oh, very sad puppy.
Greg says
Yeah, it
Cassius is
was
the last name, but yes.
Cassius. But yeah, it was a lovely little whiplash for me as I was trying to go through those. But yes, agreed, Angelica. What is your answer?
Okay, so I think my answer is Brutus, maybe. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know why, but I think I like Brutus the best.
I think that seems to be everyone's rationale. It's like this is kind of a gut feeling, but I like this dog.
Yeah, yeah. So
They're all great. They're all valuable. They all serve their purpose.
yeah.
And I think is Brutus the one that sort of Rachel seems to favor a little bit. Like there is one that she or is still being trained. Or maybe that is Angelica.
That's
I can't
Angelica's the one that's still being trained.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
click on the chapter real quick. So the interlude for arc uh
It's for
4.
Shell,
Yeah.
is what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, is it the it's yeah, the end of arc interlude. So yeah, Brutus is the one who the chapter is from the perspective of.
Yeah, I
Um
think it's interlude 2,
but
for
that's
Shell.
yeah, for sure. But that's not the reason that I like Brutus best. I just don't have a reason.
Yeah, that's okay. I think we're all in the same boat on that.
Yeah.
Um, well, cool. Thanks for those who participated in the audience participation.
Yeah.
And M, for whenever you're listening back to this, which I do hope you do, please give us your answer. I would love your take on the secret.
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 Um I wanted to give the audience participation question for next week.
Yeah.
This time it's who is the MVP of this fight? And this fight being the entire Arc 3 bank robbery from
Hmm.
when they enter the bank in 3.7 to when they're fully exunted from the bank and safe in 3.12.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I hope there's some please, and I'm gonna amend it. Even that, I'm not gonna be running the show on that one. But please
Mm-hmm.
give us your please give us your rationale. Would love to hear a breakdown of why you think your person truly was the MVP.
Yes, yes. Who is the MVP of this fight? And please explain why.
Yes. Yes, and please tell us why.
Well, I gotta
Because
put a
otherwise,
please, because I'm still gonna get some fuck no's. I'm sure. This like Vic for sure, you know.
oh, 100%.
So, um,
Cool.
I think we're around at about the end. I think we can we really did speed through that last section, so I think that we can kind of call it here. We don't need to push it all the way to the hour, but I've had a great
Part of me
time.
is tempted though. Yeah, yeah, me too, me too.
Yeah, I was tempted, but I was like, because of what we did, well, if you can patter for like 1 minute, we'd be able to do it. Um,
Okay, well, I mean, I will just say first off,
just
just to slow down
just
everybody
to
for just a
vamp it
moment,
out.
just to vamp it out so we can really hit that hour mark. No, I just want to say thank you very much, William, for having me on here again, and to all the folks listening. This is super fun, and I'm not a very literate man. I've never done book clubs or anything like that, but to utilize those critical thinking skills is always very fun, and to
I
break
feel
this
like
stuff apart.
you pull a lot out of these.
I,
So
Good.
yeah,
I mean, our conversations do last stupid long, so which
yeah,
I very much enjoy. I like the drawn out stuff.
and
So
I
for
mean,
everyone who was able to make it to the end, God fucking thank you. You're a real one.
for every hour that you hear us talk here, we have talked at least 2 times that many hours in the lead up, mostly about stuff we can't talk about because spoilers for further in the story. Oh,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you.
Oh, and
Said good
uh,
stream.
and oh, thank you. 2 + 4 × 5. And I guess one last note is if you have like feedback on us kind of switching things up a little bit, talking through the themes and stuff like that ahead of the chapter. If that works, great. Let us know. If that doesn't work, let us know, but in a nice way.
Yes, please, but in a nice way.
Please, in a nice way. We accept constructive criticism, but not mean criticism. We don't like that.
Yeah. So we've got the usual links. And then I'll do my like last announcement thing for next week, which is slightly different.
Mhm.
My usual links. So the author of the book can be supported at patreon.com/wildbow. That's the name of this online handle for the author, Wildbow. Wildbow. I almost said the wrong letter at the end, so I just had to stop. And it would have been one of two things that would have been accidental. I've been typing it as Wildbox so much for some reason recently I literally
Playing
don't
too much
know.
jackpot.
No, I normally refuse to play that unless I'm drinking and on stream.
Okay, fair enough.
Um,
Uh,
the text of the full
I,
work. Oh,
yeah. I want to read one. I'm doing it. The
oh, you
full
do it.
text of the work is available for free online at
Jesus Christ.
https://parahumans.wordpress.com.
And then this is a there is a fan made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. That's the one that makes me say just check out the links in like the thingamabob. Oh, I should have turned on the outro music. Creepy music. Switch in.
Ooh. Okay, do it now. I can't hear it, but I assume it's
Okay.
there.
It's kind of there.
Okay, cool.
And then,
Um,
but here's my announcement over the creepy music is that next week we will not have a chapter review. Next week we will be doing a bonus episode because we need to. It's a bye week, as I said earlier. So, yes, there will be a surprise as a placeholder. It should be pretty cool, I think. But I mean, who knows? It might suck.
cool and surprising.
Anyway, so thank you very much for being on this with me, David. It's always great.
Anytime. Loved it.
Oh crap. Yeah, I left it as unlisted. That is totally my bad. Made it unlisted for
Oh,
the
my wife.
now we will make it public at the very end of the stream. Um whoops.
Oopsie doopsie.
Well, that's how things go, but this is the time when the stream ends. Bye bye.
Yep. All right, bye.